1 minute to the deadline. Thirty seconds. Fifteen seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Deadline.
The 2020 inaugural season of the Diplomacy Broadcast Network Invitational has come to a close. It is time for the big dance to begin. Over the next 3 weekends, the highest ranked players from the 2020 season will compete for the Calhammer Cup and to become the first ever DBNI Diplomat of the Year. I'm going to welcome to the stream Kevin O'Kelly. Kevin, where is Kevin? Here we go. Oh, Kevin seems to be having some technical difficulties, so I will just talk for a minute. First of all, thank you all. My name is Brian Pravel. I am one of the founders of the Diplomacy Broadcast Network, along with Brandon Fogel and Zachary Moore. The DBNI was our brainchild. We were looking for a way to create a tournament of tournament winners, if you will. So over the course of the 2020 season, we have been having competitions. Players have been placed and ranked based off of their successes at those events. And we created a 28-player invitational circuit for the top 28 players from that season. We had over 300 players. We had a large number of boards. We'll cover those in a little bit. But first, let's talk about how we got here. First of all, we had 13 qualifying events. In those 13 events, we started with, we got started with DixieCon. And started out with Cascadia. So in January of 2020, we had our last major face-to-face event. Siobhan Nolan won Cascadia. After that, we went into lockdown with quarantine, and there was some question amongst the community about whether we would be able to have any events at all. And we discovered a new way of playing, and that was to play what we're calling virtual face-to-face. Christian Klein won the first virtual face-to-face event, which was David Hood's long-running DixieCon. Continuing on, Tanya Gill won the Boston Massacre. Tommy Anderson won Liberty Cup. John Anderson won Weaselmoot. Andrei Gribikov won Tempest in a Teapot. David Shignoli won our first extended deadline format event, the Nexus Season 4 Championship. Brewmark won the Online Diplomacy Champ. Bill Hackenbrack won Carnage. Morgante Pell won the Virtual World Diplomacy Championship. Alessandra Tavani won Nexus Season 5. And to end out the season, Ed Sullivan won Cascadia Open 2021. I am going to welcome onto our stream momentarily Doug Moore. Doug, welcome to the stream. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Brian?
Doing good. Since Kevin seems to be having some technical difficulties, I thought you and I could just chat a little bit, if you don't mind.
Happy to do so.
All right. So, first of all, Doug, you and the team have been a big part of the coverage here. We've had a large volume of contributors, and your insights have been very appreciated. So really appreciate you participating and making this product what it's turned out to be.
It's been a lot of fun. I think everybody has dealt with being in quarantine in different ways. And for me, this has been a real fun opportunity to connect with all of my friends and participate in diplomacy in a different way than perhaps in face-to-face. So I've had a great time. So thanks for the chance.
No problem. So we had 210 boards across 13 face-to-face and virtual face-to-face competitions. We had 136 boards in 3 extended deadline competitions. 310 people played in the 13 face-to-face competitions. We had 8 that entered the ranks from our extended deadline competitions. So all of this group has contributed to create what I believe to be the largest qualifying rounds for any kind of invitational event in diplomacy history. I am stoked to see these games. Can't wait to watch. What are you looking forward to seeing?
Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody for all the work that's gone into this. This has been really fantastic. And the unsung heroes behind the scenes who've done all this, I think, deserve an enormous amount of credit. And also the way that it's really brought the face-to-face hobby together with the online hobby is really, really fantastic. There's a lot of ways to play diplomacy, and it's fantastic to see everyone working together to do this. So today, what I'm looking forward to, these rounds are unlimited. So they could go on for a long time, and everyone knows what the stakes are. So I kind of expect a lot of balance of power play, a lot of really cautious, like feeling each other out. This is all sharks on these boards, okay? Everybody here is a top player in the world. And, I just am really looking forward to some entertainment and dynamic play.
Wonderful. All right. Well, I'm going to welcome to the stream Kevin O'Kelly. Kevin, welcome. Glad we got those technical difficulties sorted out.
We will hope for the best. Just like everything else in Chicago, the internet is frozen over this weekend. So glad to be on the broadcast.
All right. So before we get into it, one thing I was a little disappointed that I was unable to do was do the last episode of Countdown. The reason why is Zach Moore, DBN founder and show co-host, Zach Moore and myself had some predictions going into this event. And we've got a little bit of bragging rights on the line here. So I wanted to just kind of run through what those predictions were about who was going to make it into the diplomacy's big dance and kind of take a look at what our predictions are. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that up on screen here. And all right. Now I'm having the technical. There we go. All right, so we're going to take a look here at the DBNI Bubble Watch. Of course, the DBNI is a 28-person event. We had 13 automatic qualifiers, which left us 15 seeds that were not people that had won events, but instead were based on scoring highly at competing during those events. That created some really, really tight competition, especially along the bottom, similar to the NCAA tournament or other tournaments of that effect. The bubble became really exciting. So Going in, the last out into the DBNI were Jason Massbaum, Dave Roberts, Liam Stokes, Klaus de Groff, and Zachary Moore. Each of these players are alternates, so should there be some sort of issue with any of the qualifying players where they are unable to participate in this order, beginning with Jason and proceeding down to Zach, the alternates will be invited to take their place. The last in, we had Marcus Zylstra, DBN's own. Marcus is often an unsung hero, working tirelessly behind the scenes, providing us a lot of insight and connections into the European hobby and doing a lot of our video editing. Eustachio Ruali, Ben Kelman, Craig Mayer, and Brad Blitzstein were the last to make it in. So for our all-important predictions, we predicted who was going to be vulnerable, who was in the DBNI, that top 28 in December that we did not think would make it in. Zach, Riaz Varani was his prediction. Riaz did make it in, so that is a wrong prediction for Zach, marked in red. Eustachio Rauli also made it in successfully, so Zach is 0-2. Jordan Connors, much to my chagrin and Zach's happiness, Jordan was unable to participate despite qualifying, so I'm giving him that one. He technically is correct. So he is 1 of 3 for his predictions. For me, I also predicted Eustachio would not make it. Russ Dennis, I predicted, would not make it. Russ did very well at Cascadia and did manage to make it in. And Andrew Goff, the world champion, I predicted would not make it, and I was correct. So both of us are 1-3 on our predictions. Moving on to biggest opportunity. Who were the players that were not in the top 28 in December that we believed would be able to, most likely, to make it into the tournament? Zach predicted Jason Massbaum, who is our first alternate and narrowly missed the cut. Matthew Krill, really good prediction from Zach here. I watched Matt's performance at Cascadia. That was really impressive effort to, I believe, solo at the end of that game. Long game. Really grateful I dodged a bullet and was not covering that one. It went so long. But congratulations to Matt Krill. Dave Roberts, also one of our alternates, did not quite make it in. We will not award points for alternates who play, by the way. I predicted Jackson Roberts. Jackson did have a strong performance at Cascadia. I picked the correct Roberts. Ben Kelman, I stuck with Ben all season long, and he pulled it off. He did make it in, and I was wrong on Liam, who is one of our alternates. So if you look at this, I think we come out that the true champion, and the reason why we are covering this segment right now, is I did outguess Zach Moore by 1 guess. So we will see how that prognostication goes. We will have opportunities for that. In fact, I will point out that all of our DBN commentators have made predictions for the top 7. We are encouraging everyone in chat right now, go ahead and post your predictions. And the way that we're going to score this, you get pick your top 7 and what order they're going to be seated in for the top board. So pick so-and-so's first place, so-and-so's second place, so-and-so's third place, and so on and so forth. Okay. If you get someone in the top 7 with the correct seed, that's worth 2 points. If someone is in the top 7, but they are not the correct seed, that's worth 1 point. And then do a separate pick for who's going to win it all. And if you correctly pick the person who is going to win it all, you get 10 points. So we encourage everybody, put your predictions in chat. You can put them in now. We will go back and watch this, and you can compete along with us. And at some point, we'll probably compile all of the predictions from chat and maybe have a audience vote, and we can see how the audience fares compared to the DBNI commentators. So with that, that's a lot of blabbering with me. Doug, I thank you for stepping in. I'm going to let you go. And Kevin, anything you'd like to say before we move on to our next segment?
Yeah, and so to get to that top board, we've got an open tournament, so to speak. Obviously, the Invitational is here, but over the next 2 weekends, there is going to be 4 rounds. There's no set schedule for those 4 rounds. It was based on players' availability. Obviously, Pacific time zone players might not want to be playing at 7 a.m. for the morning rounds, and so players were allowed to pick their rounds, and I believe everybody but one person got there exactly where they wanted to play. So we'll have one person making a little time sacrifice. The scoring system, as we'll go over, we'll take the top results of two games for each player over the next 2 weekends. So as they accumulate scores throughout the tournament, not everything they've done in the past. So seedings coming in are thrown out the window. It is a brand new day for all 28 players. We'll talk about the seedings a little bit as they come in, but it's not a representative of their play. Numbers 22 through 28 might be your top 7. So we'll have 2 boards for you right now. The hosts are going to come back and do 2 more tonight, and we'll have a similar schedule next weekend. So a lot of diplomacy in February. And again, for those of us in the cold weather zones like you and me and one of our analysts today, we're looking forward to a little heat on the boards to warm us up.
All right. Well, Kevin, with that, I am going to bid you farewell. I'm going to go put on my producer hat and turn over the host duties to you. Thank you again to you and the rest of the DBNI team. This has been just such a great project to work on. So much fun. Love this community. Love seeing everybody in chat. Yes, we just had our first prediction. I'm going to go ahead and put that up on screen before I go. All right, Matt, you're going to be right up there with all of us. So we'll try and compile all of these rankings. We will not include any rankings or any predictions that happen after we begin covering the games. So get your predictions in right now. And Kevin, take it over.
Thank you, Brian. And let's bring to the cast. We have our analysts for today. We have former multiple-time world champion Doug Moore and last season's Royale winner for the Chicago Windy City Weasels, Corey Neslin. So welcome to the stream.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, glad to be here.
We are looking forward to some good diplomacy today with Brian putting on his producer hat. We already have some good intel, so we will certainly get the games started. Thanks, Doug, for chipping in and getting this started. So we already heard your overview. Corey, what about you? Just kind of as you step in, we're the opening round, we're the wild card weekend, so to speak, for football fans. What are you excited about coming in, seeing the first batch of games?
Well, I would say the first thing I'm excited about is not watching football. So that's a good start just right out the gate. I'm really excited. Most of the folks who are here are folks I know, maybe not personally, but through the grapevine. And I'm just really excited to see how it all turns out.
Excellent. Well, we're looking forward to. So as we get into today, we heard the countdown, and we can't say enough for what Brandon and Brian and Zach and Marcus, and I know there's obviously the whole team of us who have been along the way, but the first 4 have done so much to keep us together. Like I think when I finally got my internet back working, and what Doug mentioned is we missed the community. So it's great to be back, and without further ado, let's get to the games. So I love the nice part about the online diplomacy is we've had creative board names for what's come up as we're playing a legendary tournament here, the world champion, as I've heard a couple folks refer to it. This is an invitational, but to be in an invitational, you have to have earned it. And the name of this first player, he has earned many, many, many awards over the years. Doug is again, multiple-time world champion. I'm sure you've seen Eddie on the board a few times. What stands out the most about Eddie?
I've played a lot of games with Eddie Bursan, and I'm proud to call him a friend of mine. Eddie Bursan has been playing diplomacy since 1965 when he was 16 years old. He's played on pretty much every continent except Antarctica, and has won tournaments in Africa, in Asia, in Canada, in the United States. He is a fantastic player. And one of the things I really love most about Eddie Bursan is his dedication to the game and to introducing the game to younger players in a way that is very bite-sized and easy to do. He's got, he put together a 5-minute teacher, script on how to teach people to play diplomacy in 5 minutes. And he comes to face-to-face tournaments all over the place. And he's just a genuine joy to be around. A lot of people will play Italy today, most likely, and they will play a Lepanto opening. The person who coined that term and really popularized that set of movements is, in fact, Eddie Bursan. So, this is a player who has been playing and given to the hobby, and both in tactics and strategy and time throughout his career. He is a fantastic person. And if you didn't know, he also is in politics in real life. And is a city council member in Concord, California.
He took, I know he was very active when I first started in the hobby. He attended the original Weasel Moot, and you could just see him kind of teaching sessions over a board on how to play, and kind of as you're waiting for, the people who haven't played real face-to-face, but in-person face-to-face, he'd be throwing pieces around before a game starts, and you'd be like moving pieces, and you could be starting in, 3 different spots of the board, but it was always fun, and you always learned a lot from him. So it's definitely a tribute.
You haven't been to a face-to-face tournament for real until you get an Eddie Bursan poopy point for making him mad at you. I've got a lot of those.
I do too, but sadly it's probably from poor play rather than stabbing him. So that's good. So with living up to the status of Eddie, are we going to let's see if we're going to get to the games today. So as I'm not sure if I mentioned or if anyone else did before I joined on, but in order to be seated on these boards, we wanted a little bit of randomness, but not too much so where you couldn't accidentally get drawn between, player ranking 1 and ranking 28 on 2 straight boards. So the hosts came up with a bidding system. And players are able to do it. I know a lot in the judge system back 10, 15 years ago, you had your, what did you want, in priority order. And so we had a little weighted system, and players were able to submit bids up until 5 minutes before the game time, changed based on, they saw, I think not more than 10 or 15 minutes before the games started, they were able to see who's on the board and adjust their bids necessarily. If maybe you think you've got allies, you'd want to be in the West because you can do a Western triple, or if you know you didn't have any friends on the board, maybe you pick like a Turkey or an England. We'll get into the strategy of actually how the players bid later as we go through the qualifying rounds. But at the start, we were pleased to see that of this first board, 5 of the 7 players got their first choice, their highest bid, and the other 2 got their the second choice. So it seems to randomly have worked out so far. And as we'll get in, we'll talk about the strength of the boards based on the seeds as well. But from the start, we've got Ben Kelman. We've got player profiles on all these, so we're going to get into the players as we go. But Ben, it was his first, his top bid was as Austria, so selected there, coming to us from Pennsylvania. Conrad Wondering of the New York hobby, but globetrotter nonetheless over the last decade or so. Again, got his first bid coming to us from Great Britain. Maxim Popov, we've seen him pop up in the rankings in the last couple of games. Again, with his top bid coming into France from Iowa. John Anderson, obviously one of the top seeds coming into the tournament. John, I know, won Wieselmut as Germany, and he won that with his top bid. And so he will come to us from Utah today. So one of the further western time zones playing in the early round. So we'll see how that starts. Jackson Roberts coming to us from California, another early morning for him. Came in with a strong result from Cascadia a couple weekends ago, and he also got his first bid. So the first 5 seeds all come in with their fifth. Nicolas Ahue, former world champion, comes to us from Canada, and he got his second pick. And then lastly, and certainly not leastly, from someone who I accidentally disparaged in our chats this week, Marcus Zylstra, who, again, for all the behind the scenes, I forgot he was playing, but he comes in. Yeah, I totally forgot he was playing. So we'll see if I motivated him, slighting him to prove his results here today. But he, again, coming from across the pond, got his second bid. So as we've seen, again, a lot of these times when we're looking at these boards for the first time, you're looking, who hasn't played, who's played a bunch. 7 fantastic players starting the board. So Doug, what do you think? Is there any matchups you've analyzed before, you've seen an alliance building out, or someone who may get out to a strong start on their own?
Well, let me just say, this is a stacked board right here. I mean, when I saw this draw, I was like, "Ooh, this is going to be fun," and it really is going to be fun. We've seen a lot of these players over the course of the year, and actually, I had the opportunity. I played in Cascadia, and I played with several of these players. Including Nicola and John Anderson, who jumped me right out of the gate. So I'm not rooting for them still as a consequence. No, I'm kidding. This is a fantastic board. And, I think that the balance of power sort of ideal is going to take hold in this, because you can't really let somebody get ahead of you, because it's cumulative score over 2 rounds. If somebody gets an absolutely gigantic result and you get a very poor result, the pressure's really going to be on you to do well in the second game next week. So you really want to limit people getting a big score, even if that means you get a medium score. And so, I just think that people are really going to take that to heart. And for me, my favorite on this board is Conrad Woodring. He is a criminally underrated player. He is a fantastic diplomat. His strategy is top notch. I've played on top boards with him. I think that, he is ready to go. I'm looking at Conrad.
Excellent. And so then with a balance of power, which I think I heard you mention in the opening, and kind of limiting the scores, Corey, if we are going to have a breakout, someone who's every board kind of has a firecracker that's going to maybe light the spark to change up the board. Is there anyone on the list that's going to strike out early and get to that top score? Or not strike out, but hit the home run early and get to that top score? Oop, I think we lost our audio.
How about that? Did that fix it? Sorry, guys. I would say that these guys are all really fantastic players. I do agree with them trying to limit each other. So I don't know if we're going to get anyone who's a true firecracker. But if I had to guess, I might be thinking Jackson. I mean, picking Italy in this type of game, Italy can cause a lot of fun in the mid-game. I know I did it, and I picked Italy for that reason. So I'm going to side with myself and Jackson a little bit here and go with him.
All right. So early analyst favorites, not picks necessarily to top or to win anything long term. We've got those predictions to come. But to start the board, our eyes are on Conrad and Jackson. So let's get to it. So starting out, we're there. We're going to go through a couple of years first. We'll have Doug start in the West where his pick was, and we'll see if Jackson goes East or West. But Corey, we'll start in the East. So without further ado, let us get to the first set, and let's start it off.
Well, starting in the West, you have a fairly standard openings here. No real risks. I would guess that was a planned bounce in Burgundy here, but we'll see how that plays out. Nothing really revealed there. I would just say that the bounce in Burgundy is the thing that is interesting. And we'll have to see if that was an arrangement or a disagreement that could ignite something going forward.
The notable French opening of the Hood Hog is did I have that right? No, the Hood Hog is to the channel, so we will not make David proud right now, but we'll see if we can get another one of those as we get through the opening round. So, but now to the East, and yes, Jackson will go East. So, Corey, you will get to watch your pick. What do you think?
So far, I would say also pretty standard here in the East. The one thing on here that I'll note is that Smyrna held, which I don't think I've seen that in a while, choosing not to go to Khan or Armenia or anything really. So I don't know what Marcus's plan is, but I'm excited to see what happens.
We notice a bounce in Galicia and a hold in Venice. From a strategy standpoint, Doug, have you seen Army Smyrna hold? What's the benefits? What's the downside?
Well, the benefit is it opens up Constantinople for a fleet build, which then is flexible going to Aegean or supporting Ankara to the Black Sea. So this can be a really strong move. And it's not aggressive towards anybody. It doesn't pin your unit in place supporting Bulgaria forever. So it does give you a lot of flexibility. It's a good play by Marcus. If you're not really sure what's going on and you don't have a firm ally, give yourself the flexibility for what it is that you need to do going forward. So nicely done.
And potentially a defense of a convoy if Italy does open with that Eddie Bursan Lepanto, like you mentioned earlier. So, from the big dog in the East, former world champ Nicolas No Effin Way, as David Hood calls him, with Ben Kelman as a newer player in Austria. Corey, what do you think about the bounce in Galicia? We've seen some of those. We've not seen some of those. Does that benefit one versus the other?
I mean, for me, it's a little bit too early to tell that, but I would say it's probably arranged, especially if Ben is at all worried about Nicola coming down. I mean, I would have reached out to him with that suggestion.
Excellent. All right, so we've got standard everywhere else. The fall is where the damage happens, so let's get our way to the fall. I need to reveal, and. Well, again, let's with the West being a little clean on the opening, let's start in the West again, Doug.
Well, we've got an uncontested convoy to Belgium. France held in Picardy, and then we've got no bounce in Sweden. So England is building two, putting the army in Belgium, as some of us like to say, the place where English armies go to die. But it's very notable that France did not support or bounce. So this really feels like it could be an EF here. But again, it's so early, it's hard to tell what those negotiations were. But the hold in Picardy and allowing that to go forward is really very eye-grabbing.
And as we slide over kind of on both sides of the board, no bounce in Sweden with John, who's had a fantastic season, and again, Nicola in Russia. Diplomatic win for one or the other, Corey?
I would think so. Nicola is in a great position. He's come into Rum and Sweden uncontested on both fronts. I'd be very happy if I were him. I don't know. I wonder if John Anderson knew or had an idea that Rum was just going to be open for walking in, essentially. So that I find that to be a bit interesting, including the shift of the Ankh fleet over. So for me, again, not knowing what they're saying to each other, I would say that Nicola and Marcus have come to some kind of agreement.
So as we've made it through the opening round, obviously before I move the orders away, a contested dual contested attack in Rome certainly sends a strategy for Italy, right?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that rolls out.
My guess is based on the initial. So we see probably an EF. Maybe the no bounce in Belgium was retaliation for a non-discussed bounce in Burgundy the first time around. We don't know that. We'll continue to watch. AI seems pretty strong with Venice not moving for the first two seasons, and then RT with the Fleet and Khan already pointed westward. Will be. If you
want to pause here before we reveal for a second, if you go back, I think that Ben is not locked in yet with Jackson. I don't think we have an AI just yet. I do think that we have at least a proto RT here. He did a very defensive set of orders in his first move, with the bounce in Galicia. Then he moved to Trieste, which means he did not just give Italy Trieste. So maybe it's going for Greece or something, but let's keep an eye on that. That's interesting.
From a maybe they work together standpoint, knowing that you're going to get 2 builds, you're going to want to build 2 armies, maybe putting the army in Trieste eliminates the fleet possibility to tie up the relationship, or is that kind of just whatever kind of play?
If you're covering Trieste, it means you don't want Italy to get it. I mean, so you're not just giving Italy a dot.
Yeah.
So I just think that was notable and something for us to keep an eye on.
Excellent. Good point to know. So, all right. So we've gotten our positions based on the alliances that we think or potentially any surprising builds you'll be looking for, or are we just going to reveal them and analyze them? I'll get back to Doug.
Let's just see what we get.
See what we get. All right. Perfect.
Sorry about that, guys.
No, you're right. And there are the builds. So no fleet in Brest. So clearly not clearly EF, but likely EF. Fleet in Naples is very expected. Obviously the Austrians and the Turks with the shifting of the fleet. The 2 armies for Russia, Corey. Looking at the East again, strong player in Russia. What does that say? Maybe about how the bouncing Galicia wasn't planned, or how do we go from there?
I would definitely say that Russia has some designs on taking some armies west. And I think if his relationship with Marcus holds up, that's going to be the case. I really like their builds. I do question, though, how other players on the board think about this. Are they already looking at these builds saying, oh, do we have a much stronger cohesive problem over here? Or is there some flexibility? And I don't know, but I would be worried if I was Ben Kelman right now.
As a German expert, Doug, seeing what you see with Russia and 2 builds, obviously Germany gave them 1, but uncontested in Romania, strong RT, and then an EF building. What is John's responsibility in 1902 to kind of shake things up?
Oh, my question to Nicola is always, okay, now you've got Sweden, you're going to help me in Denmark, right? We're going to keep the English out. And, I do think that it is very notable, the builds in England and France. Those are the friendliest builds that they could have done towards each other. A build in Marseille. You could have some kind of Western triple here going on, but a Western triple is always a thinly disguised attack on Germany from my experience. But, look, this is a good standard opening from John. Even if he's facing an EF, he can hold out for quite a long time. He's not really in any danger at this point. Just pop your fleet to the Baltic to defend Denmark and Kiel, and you're fine. It's if Russia swings against you alongside EF that you're in real trouble. You can very easily hold out EF against an EF as Germany if Russia just supports you in Denmark. You can hold it for quite a long time. And
with Corey, your pick, initial look at Jackson. So 2 fleets coming from the east, a build of Fleet Marseille, coming from the other side. You think that's helpful? If I don't have to fight one, I got to fight both. Maybe I can turn one of them to help me, or am I just in a lot of trouble right now?
I mean, I wouldn't say at this particular point that Jackson's in a lot of trouble. I definitely think he has some negotiation he needs to work on, both with Maxim and with Ben. It doesn't look great, I would say, from my perspective here, but nothing is set in stone, right? And it certainly depends on how some of these other players solidify or fight with each other in the next year. I think that's going to determine Jackson's long-term survivability at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of it is a lot of build up here, but nothing to shake it up yet. So hopefully shaking things up. Let's go straight into 1902. No updated predictions yet because we're just breaking out. But in the spring we see a little bit of more supports and red in the central area, but a lot of black arrows in the west. But let's start in the let's start in the East this time. Corey, what little change of direction from Turkey? What do you think?
Yeah, just a little bit of a change. I wonder how that occurred. I wonder if that was initiated by Ben. Maybe he saw a little bit of writing on the wall and thought maybe he could get Marcus to come help him out. I would say I'm surprised for sure, and it doesn't look like it was terribly successful this round, but I guess I'm not surprised by that. With Khan now in the Black Sea, that's a great position. An army in Armenia, fantastic. The bounce and Gal, essentially both bouncing each other out. Great plays. I am interested with Jackson's supported attack onto the Ionian. I don't know if that's because Ben told him Greece was going to go to Ionian, or if he's really going to choose an intention here. But I think it would be a little bit surprising with this particular setup if he got involved, unless he's having conversations with Marcus, maybe.
And Venice still holds again. So kind of to finish up with the East, Moscow goes north to St. Petersburg. Doug, does that but supported Norway to Skagerrak? Is that more of a, well, I'll help you, but I'm going to take some from behind as well?
Not necessarily. Conrad and Nikola are obviously world champion caliber players. They know what they're about here. And so, you just want to make sure that somebody doesn't slide in. I like to, as Russia, you need to guard your flank. You don't necessarily need to do much more than that. I will say, I love an England-Russia alliance where they just sort of drive south together. So they very well could be deciding hey, I'll give you Norway, I'll take Denmark and Holland, and we'll trade some dots around in Scandinavia. You could very easily be seeing an agreement where they're going to work together against Germany. This is fascinating in the West, I will say. Dropping into Helgoland with the support into Skagerrak is really very painful right now for John, particularly because his move to Silesia is going to require he's going to have to come back. He's in a real hard spot right now. He's going to have to be working the diplomatic lines real hard here to recover.
If John sees the writing on the wall, he's gone through 01, he sees a strong EF. He does give Sweden to Russia, trying to maybe win him over that way, but spring 02 negotiations happen, and he realizes there's nothing I can do diplomatically. I've lost that game, let's say, early on. Is the order from Munich to Silesia coming back, of course, to cover? But is it fine if I think you've ruined my game, I'm going to put the most pressure on you and see, or is it too early to throw in the towel for him, even with a tough position?
It really depends. I mean, France's moves here, are pretty standard and neutral. He hasn't committed anything. He's put himself in position. He could take Belgium. He could take a stab at Munich. He hasn't decided what he's going to do essentially at this point. So he still has lots of flexibility, and that gives John the opportunity to work to get an ally. So he could basically say hey, you take Belgium, I'm going to play defense. It puts you in the driver's seat in this game for 6. And then at the same time, make a play for Sweden, sacrificing Denmark in the process to punish Russia. It just depends on how you're playing it out. And you still have options here as Germany, even though it looks like you're in a dire situation. You just have to really work the diplomatic channels.
Yeah. And so we'll get our first player profile because John's in the toughest spot to begin. So, and one thing, Corey is one of the TDs and masterminds of the past year's Weaselmoot. The story I heard when listening in afterwards was John won because he was masterful in diplomacy, getting people to work around situations similar to this, and a lot of running the board thereafter. Do you think that, kind of based on his puppet master style, is that what you saw in the tournament? Is that what Weaselmoot showed of John?
I definitely think it was one of the things that it showed. I don't think going back to his current position, I don't think we can just write him off based off his position or say that he doesn't have a strong possibility of coming back. He is a diplomatic player. He knows what he's doing. I think that he's friendly, and I think people might be willing to see things from his perspective if they get a long enough time talking to him.
If they do talk to him for a long time, is he going to start sounding like Ray Romano or no?
I cannot say that I believe he sounds like Ray Romano, but maybe he hypes it up or hypes it down, depending on the situation. I'm not sure.
I think as he gets tired as the day goes on, it comes out a little bit more. I remember the post game interview from
Maybe
Mooch,
that's why he started at 10 then.
good point. Drinks the herbal tea as we go
Some
along through the day.
tea.
So I'd be curious. We'll have to see how he picked Chris Brand as his favorite diplomacy player. I noticed it's none of us three on here, so I got to find out. Yeah, exactly. So, we won't hold that against him. But John's been a fantastic player. Comes in with the number 2 seed overall. He had his real strong year and his run up against strong competition in his more recent games. And I mean, obviously, still hold on to the number 2 seed, so not underperforming, but comes in with a target on his back. So as we get back to the game and the position is not dead. Here's what it looks like. So predictions, does John just go off the rails? Everyone thinks no, it's going to be maybe a take for Sweden and patching things up. Any objections? Seeing none, hearing none?
I think he has an option. I don't think he's necessarily completely down. I hope he's still talking to Maxim. I hope that he's attempting to flip him, because it's not like Maxim could slide right into Irish pretty easily. I'm not saying Maxim wants to, but it's not off the table.
With a good persuasion, we'll see if he does it. Nope. Mm-hmm. So, Doug, the fallout is it doesn't look like too much damage other than what was expected, but still not a great spot for it.
Yeah, this is a jump on John, which is always painful. At Cascadia, having had that happen to me, I was able to get out of it, but sometimes you can't. And this is going to be very difficult for him to navigate going here. He's losing 2 centers in Denmark and Holland. This is really good alliance play by 3 players right here. Maxim goes to Ruhr, cuts the support, gets the backfill into Belgium. Here we have support into Denmark by Nicola. He gets the backfill into Norway. Conrad here has bought some allies by, doing the hard work with a little bit of help, and they get the backfill. And he is in good shape right now. This is really nicely done. And just one final thought here. No matter how good of a diplomacy player you are, and John Anderson is a fantastic diplomacy player, there are going to be games where you just get jumped right out of the gate, and that's no failure. Sometimes it just happens. It doesn't feel great. It doesn't mean that John's done anything wrong. Just sometimes it happens. And no matter how good you are, if 3 of your neighbors decide they're going to carve you up, you will go down eventually.
For as efficient as this looks, this is the plan right out of the gate. Is there any reason to think, we kind of fell into this? It looks too good to just be, winged on the spot.
No, this looks like they came into 01 and they built a plan and they're executing that plan.
Excellent. So as you mentioned, with Conrad kind of losing the centers from the fill-in, Nicola gets it, but doesn't build on that though. So from his position in the southeast, Corey, what do we think about the play down there?
I think it's interesting. It seems a little bit confused to me in some of the orders. I don't know if Doug feels the same way, but Venice walking into Trieste now, I don't know if that was arranged or not. Greece holding, but with support of Ionian, which to me feels like a diplomatic move when there's not really any stress or threat there. Romania is off the board, which isn't a total surprise given how things are going. And I don't know. It doesn't look to me like the East is maybe as set up in their alliances as the West is. And I don't know if they're going to be able to survive for very long if they don't kind of figure that out relatively quickly.
Yeah, I think you've got a good point, Corey. It's really hard for Austria to work with both Italy and Turkey at the same time.
Yeah. And I doubt that I don't know, but I doubt that they are having some 100% open, transparent communication here. It doesn't look like the orders that I would put out if that was what was going on, but that doesn't mean anything necessarily right now. I do wonder what they're going to think or what they're thinking now about how the board is going to play out after John is potentially crippled.
It's a great. My follow up was going to be, now that the not the West, because obviously Russia's involved in the North as well, but the West has kind of settled itself out. You're always looking for the first player to get shaken out. The East doesn't look like it's at any point, in the near future to shake itself out. Does that lead to Conrad or Maxime having a good start on that? I mean, Maxime's the only one who didn't seed a center. Austria picked up Romania. Italy, backfills that. Conrad picked up 2 Germans, but backfilled them. Maxime's going to be running the top at 6th right now. Is he looking at big picture, or how does he go in? So let's get to the builds here. So
this is going to be a really important build in the West. What gets put down here? If he could get the jump on England and put a fleet in Brest, and he can't be stopped going to the Irish, and then he can support himself up to the Channel. He can really put a walloping on England and really stymie this advance into Germany. Or he could put a fleet in Marseille and he can take a swing south. He could put an army on the board. He's got a lot of opportunity here. Without knowing how things are going in his mind, and how the negotiations are going, I don't probably want to pick on England here at this point, because why would I? He's doing everything I want him to do. He just gave me Belgium. It just feels like, ugh. So we'll see. But this is going to set the pace for the West going forward for quite a long time. This build right here.
I actually think that France's build is going to largely impact the East as well, because Jackson either has a big problem right now or he doesn't have a big problem right now. And that's going to change the way that he plays, and thus how Austria and Turkey play. And I think that right now might be a key moment in the game, just for determining, like, where is this going? Where is the mid game going here?
Yeah, and John Anderson is a really tough choice right now on what he pulls. This is painful.
Mm-hmm.
This is never fun.
So from a what do you build standpoint, obviously neither of you two are on the board. You don't know the diplomatic relations, but based on your analysis so far, you think you've got yourself in in good shoes. Corey, since Jackson was your pick, what do if let's say this is your play right now, and you are, it's not just gunboat, you are negotiating, what do you put down and what do you tell your ally, whoever that is, after this turn?
It's a really good question, but I think if this was me, I would have to build Fleet Naples. I don't think I would feel comfortable building anything else at this point, either because Maxim is about to drop a fleet Marseille, and then I'm stuck stalemating in Med, or you could argue that a fleet was necessary regardless of who your current ally is. You can either tell France I did it defensively, or you could tell it Ben, hey, I built a fleet for defensive reasons, regardless of what the actual answer is.
Sure. Yeah.
But that would be definitely what I do.
And Doug, as France, what do you put down?
I'm putting down a fleet. If I want to go after England, I put a fleet in Brest. If I want to go after Italy, I probably put a fleet in Brest, actually, and disguise it, and then drop to Lyon, West Med, and Mid-Atlantic. It's still pretty devastating if you do it that way.
Yeah. What I find surprising, though, is that he shifted his fleets west. So wasn't his fleet Marseille and MAO was in Spain or something like that? He rotated them over. Like, why rotate them over if you're just going to come back within a year?
I like as France to have my fleets in Mid-Atlantic and Spain, even if they're, if my long-term goal is to go after Italy, because you always have to defend against England, and you want England to pay attention to your fleet in the Mid-Atlantic. So it has
that's fair.
A benefit just being there. You don't want to be too far away if England puts a fleet in Liverpool, for example.
Yeah.
What and then German, Doug, I don't want to get into predictions of every build, but it is consequential. If if there's no diplomatic chance, what do you remove just to hunker down? You get rid of the Fleet Baltic and pray?
Your goal here is, who am I punishing for killing me, right, at this point? And you don't have a lot of cards to play, but your last card is, well, I'm going to defend against you, and I'm going to do my best to make sure that you don't get anything.
Yeah.
That said, I don't think that you can realistically carry 2 fleets as Germany in this situation with 3 armies coming in. So you've got to pull one of your fleets. So I'd probably pull the Baltic. Just, that's your play. It's going to be really difficult to hold anything at this point.
Yeah. And the only other one on the board, and we'll see it when I click the button here, is Russia. So Corey, Nicola built Army Moscow. It really got to put the defense on the south since the north is going so well. Doug, Army Paris.
I see what is happening here with this, and I don't hate it. And it's a good strategy, which is I am going to grow through the center of the board, through Munich, and extend east. And I need armies to do that. And this sets him up pretty well. I don't hate where Maxim's going with this. If you want to fight with Italy, you're going to get Munich this year. You can be in the same position and be able to drive south with your armies and put another fleet down. So, this is strong play. This really just shows to me that this EF is unshakable.
Yeah, and the fleet in Naples was built, and we'll see how that goes. So with the spheres kind of shaken out, let's stick with East and West one more year, and we'll get to the spring and see if anything changed diplomatically. Doug, it doesn't look like you exactly like you said. I mean, EF stays strong and tries to plow through.
Good set of moves here by France. You're keeping cover, making sure that nobody comes west after you. I like this. Good, thoughtful defensive play. Nice cagey move here by Nicola to go to the Baltic Sea, which prevented a retreat there. So they blew up and annihilated that fleet. That's really very devastating. And also, I love the support yourself to Ruhr, support yourself to Burgundy, set yourself up in a chain of units to take Munich. Nicely done by the Western Alliance here.
And then to the east, Turkey making a little progress, maybe getting out of the box, Corey.
It certainly looks like it, or he's trying to. I do like to see Ben in Galicia. Unfortunate though, he didn't use his units to hold Rum, but at this point, it was probably just a guessing game on which unit do I think is going to get pulled or hit. I find it interesting that Jackson has a bunch of hold orders in there for a spring term. I would have liked to see something a little bit more action-filled, but I am not sure what his conversations with Ben would have been at this time. It could be that Jackson and Ben are just waiting to see if they can stand against Nicola and Marcus. I'm not sure, but it does seem like a lot of holds.
I don't love the holds here by Jackson. I think you raise a really good point, Corey. As Italy, you have 2 strategic enemies long term, France and Turkey, because they both want to be fleet powers in the Med, and you need to be the fleet power in the Med. So you have to see one of those eliminated. And right now, he's not really seeing either of them eliminated. Instead, they're both gaining strength while he is treading water. This is this kind of scenario right here is generally where you see in Italy get pinched.
Yeah, I think it's going to ultimately be a critical mistake for Jackson, because you're right. Either him and France have some kind of uneasy agreement or something like that, or he has to say, oh, my partner, Ben, is potentially the only guy on this board who actually is my ally. I need to help him. So I don't understand why he wouldn't be slipping or attempting to slip into the waters of Turkey, if that's really the case. Because at this point, Ben's not going to be able to hold by himself. He needs help. I don't know what the purpose is for not coming to his aid in this particular scenario.
And I know before I switch the map over, I want to talk about Jackson a little bit here, is he did slide Apulia up to Venice, so maybe to protect Trieste. He was able to diplomatically have France bounce. It was a self-bounce in, I think it was Western Med, half Western Med. And Turkey, I don't want to switch back, but it seemed like he was doing well diplomatically with everywhere around. But as a younger player, I know I think he's a freshman in college, I think. I know he's quite young, and obviously his father has played a long time, and so he's been around the game a long time, but not knowing the players, not being as comfortable as a Nicola or a Conrad. Do you think that maybe is leading to some hesitation, Corey? I know you and I are newer to it than Doug, but when you first step into a bigger group, do you play more conservative, or do you just be aggressive and have everyone adjust to you?
I think it depends. I mean, I'd like to say that I'm aggressive and I play the same way as I would play with my fellow Chicago dip players, but it's not true. When I went to my first tournament, I was very timid, and I did play very conservatively, and it essentially got me eliminated from every board. It's just when you have players who are this good, this experienced, and even to some extent just this comfortable with each other, though I don't think that actually is like the barrier. Once you're a more experienced player, you're going to get crushed. If you don't make your own decisions, someone is going to make them for you, and I think that's a very easy trap to fall into if you're a newer player or if you're a younger player. And so I feel that. I really do feel that. But I think, he picked Italy. He chose to be in Italy. And I find it interesting that he would choose to be in Italy and then not come with, some fighting words.
Based on the play style, though, of Patient, I know that's the box, like Doug said about the fleets moving, and a lot of the player interviews that we've heard throughout these different number of broadcasts. You got to get that fifth build. Now, he did get the fifth build, so he's not totally stuck, but the supports and the holds everywhere else has stagnated. Is Patience going to be a problem as this game goes on, Doug?
No, not necessarily. It really depends on how things are going to shake out. Again, with France and Turkey, you can't work with both of those, and you can't have a long-term agreement with both of those. You can for the short term. You could be waiting for something that's going to happen with England. Maybe you're waiting for something that's going to happen with Austria. We don't know that. I just, for me, I'm just identifying what I see as the challenge. Sometimes being patient can bring a lot of rewards. So, maybe he's got a plan here that, is going to be strongly executed, something along those lines. And I do want to say, let's not underestimate anybody who could give Brian Pravel a run at best hair.
the youthful exuberance in there, so that is fantastic. And of course, as you see, a solo artist on and off the board. His play as Turkey when he did solo at Cascadia was patient, held back, grew, tactically won the battle, and with one, I was listening in at the time, one fantastically timed diplomatic beg, and it worked, and he got the result. So I agree. I'm more patient player as Italy than I need to be as well. So I understand where that is. But like Corey said, when you got these sharks around you, maybe it's you got to look to be aggressive, and we'll see how that plays out. So. All right, so we're in the spring. So this, this position is set up. John Anderson can guarantee Berlin, so he will certainly make 1904. I'm not too familiar with the scoring system. I probably should have done some homework before joining the broadcast. I think you do get some survival points per year, but it is minimal in comparison. Maybe a tiebreaker at best. So he'll make it through the year, and the rest of the positions are fairly unchanged. Doug, anything consequential from an alliance breaking perspective going into the fall?
Not really. I mean, I think if I'm John at this point, I'm talking with Conrad, I'm talking with Maxime, asking, hey, can you keep me around? Hey, England, I'll be some armies for you on the continent, kind of a deal. Because if you don't, they're just going to chew those dots up. Yeah. If I'm Conrad right now, I'm starting to think about going north potentially if I'm going to stick with this EF, because the pressure that Russia's under in the south is pretty substantial. You don't need to do that right away, but you can start sort of like planning and thinking through when you're going to make that move. And I'll just say, like, Maxim is in great position here. Nobody is anywhere near him, and he is continuing to grow. And this kind of French position can very quickly become almost unassailable.
And in the East, Corey, I don't see anything. It's just a grind fest at this point, right?
Yeah, though I would really love to see maybe a big move in this next turn in the East. Something interesting.
I'll click the button here, and you can see. Is there anything that pops off at the start? It doesn't look like it, but what do you see?
I mean, I love that Jackson is now engaged with Turkey directly and is in Aegean. That's fantastic. My guess is that there's like a self bounce here with Gal and Trieste. It's unfortunate. It looks like he had a retreat though, so Ben decided to pull his army. It looks like instead of retreat, which I find interesting. And yeah, good job, Marcus. Marcus, I think I would say, is officially out of the box at this point, even with Italy coming in. I feel good for him. If his relationship with Nicolas holds up, then he may be having a very good game.
So RT patched it up. Nicolas with maybe a diplomatic win there. Obviously, Romania receiving the support from the 2 Russian units, and Jackson, of course, picking that enemy, but then getting convoyed in from behind. So Doug,
I think I think this is a little slow. He really needs to build in order to defend what's coming. This is a clever play by Maxim here. Convoying to North Africa. I know a lot of people love that move. Maybe we'll see some comments highlighting that. But this is a strong play because he also gets into the Western Med. He's got a build coming from Munich, and he could put another fleet in Marseille. France is getting some local superiority of units. Meanwhile, Italy is shifting to the west, but didn't get the build to backfill what he needs in order to defend against France. So this is going to be really very painful. It's a good move by Maxim.
He got the convoy. I was looking at that. I didn't say it out loud, but if you were gonna go north, maybe you got the convoy to Denmark up north, and the rest of it just grinding down. So let's get to those builds. So you didn't get the build. Austria, with that disbanding, allows him to rebuild in Vienna, which is the only spot. Whereas if he retreated to Bohemia, he would have been away. So maybe that was the look. I know sometimes when we're actually pushing the pieces around on the board, you can kind of get a better feel for where it was. And I didn't count the centers beforehand, but alliances, we go into these builds. We'll speed this turn up here. Is EF both building one. They got that one of 2 out of Germany in this case, and it looks like they'll get the last of Germany as well. So Russia didn't get the spoils after helping pile on. As
Russia got from the anti-German what they should get from the anti-German. They might end up with Berlin instead, but from Nicolas' perspective, he would rather have Norway. That way he doesn't have to protect St. Petersburg the whole time. But Nicolas did a nice move in the east diplomatically. He shifted the alliance because he was getting attacked by Austria and Turkey. So, he's got some opportunity still.
And then Corey, does AI hold up with the fleets moving now towards Turkey, or does, now that he's got to pull everything back, is Austria going to be the odd player out?
I think, unfortunately, that's probably the end of Ben. I don't want to say that that's for sure going to be what's happening, especially with negotiations. You never know what they're saying to each other. But I think that Jackson being a little bit too slow, maybe a little bit too patient, or not at least getting into some kind of position before going forward, I think that might have changed his and Ben's game permanently.
Well, see, of course, you're going to get the army in Vienna. You got the fleet in Cannes to push out, the fleet in Marseille. So, an army in Eddie. Yeah, the sides are locked. We're going to go one more year on this one. I don't even see who you got. Well, let's see if there's any change in 04 as we get there. So, spring 04. Maybe Austria not necessarily odd man out, but yeah, I don't see. So, Doug, what the East is or the West is cleaner than the East. Let's look at the West.
We're seeing Maxim execute his attack. You know, I flagged before that if he was going to make an attack on Italy, he would do it after Munich, dropping down to Tyrolia. That's the correct play. Nicely done, I would say, to bounce that without going too far to the east. You know, but in the meantime, you know, he is rolling his fleets south. You know, he's now in Tunis, in the West Med, in Lyon. He can pivot from Tunis and now take the Tyrrhenian Sea, and you know the gates to Italy are wide open. In the meantime, in the West, it looks to me like England is now redeploying against Russia in the north. There's no reason to go to Scandinavia, for example, right now, unless you're doing something along those lines. So that's interesting. I would love to have a conversation with, being John in this situation could actually be pretty fun because now he's relevant again. So I would love to be talking with Conrad and Maxim and be like, okay, guys, hey, how can I be helpful to you right now?
Does he go to Nikola, though, with Nikola being in Baltic? There's a chance for two on Kiel. Is there any chance of GR, or is it I got to go with EF because they're the stronger pair?
Well, Nick, I don't want to go too far to the east, but Nikola is also up in Silesia now. So this could be, we're going to do a trade kind of a thing between England and Russia. Like, you know, you could see something along those lines. I'm going to take Norway, you take Berlin.
So to go into Corey's sphere, then we'll go south, though. So Aegean is disbanded. Doesn't want to be in Eastern Med, would rather rebuild at home. Not that they're going to get Tunis back, but better to already have that off the board. Why not retreat to Eastern Med in this situation?
I mean, I think it makes sense to me. If you have the opportunity to pull that off the board, might as well just do it. I don't think it can play a big enough part, at least in this year, to make a difference. It's interesting. I wonder who was the first one to go to everyone else and say, hey, if we don't stop fighting with each other, EF is going to roll this board. I would love to know who was the first person to say that, or if there's like one of these guys for the last 2 years was going around being like, guys, we're going to have to pay attention to EF. I find that fascinating. So they're obviously turning around.
Yeah, before we get into the RT kind of analysis, could it have been Ben? I mean, with Austria stuck in the middle, like we said, we're not sure what's going to happen. RT is kind of forming up again. Could Ben be like, hey guys, don't look at me right now. Don't focus on me. I can help you get to the line faster because EF is moving. Is that what Ben's looking to do with his collaborative play style?
Oh, it would totally make sense if it was him. Totally makes sense. His only hope at this point is for Turkey and Russia or one or the other to decide that they have bigger fish they need to be worried about than him. Yeah.
Doug, with a distraction like that, is that enough to buy some time, or is Ben just kind of, I'm going to be a 3-center on the stalemate line if they let me live kind of player at this point?
Well, no. I mean, I think that Jackson's position is materially dire, but Ben is a key component because of the army ability to build right there and to get up to the stalemate line rapidly. So, Russia and Turkey are going to want him to be their third partner, and they're going to seek to replace Italy, would be my guess.
Going to the balance of power, like you mentioned earlier. All right, we've got our 5 that are going to be in. Maybe there's a whittling down, but I haven't heard any sideline reports about speed of the game and ongoing. But
if they could, like Ben's job right now is to make himself irreplaceable by holding key positions, but also not being completely open to a stab by Nikola and Marcus. So that's going to require him, and we saw Nikola move up to the stalemate line. That's going to require him to intermix some pieces, both at the front line, both at home, to make sure that they can't just like eliminate him, but that he becomes that necessary part of that alliance structure.
Yeah, going back to the player, the board announcement, it had the tops and survivals. So of Ben's games, only 4 eliminations, only 3 tops, but 15 survivals. So maybe he's finding himself in a a position where he knows the game, and like Corey said, to be aggressive as once you get comfortable. I mean, this isn't a VDL where he did well. This is fairly a top board. You look for your chance, and either you decide, do I just hold out, get a result as little as it may be, or cause some damage because I may not have a chance in round two if a big score comes out. So we'll see how he goes, and of course his athlete, no singing, and the Michigan hat, being an Irish kid from the south side of Chicago, Michigan is again not my favorite player at this point. So sorry, Ben. But back to the board, Corey. So RT or RT with a RT with a tag along, or is it really a rat?
I mean, I don't know that. I don't know if I would be able to say just from looking at this particular board where they're landing on that. I do agree with you that Jackson's got a problem. Unfortunately, he didn't move Venice and didn't use Venice for support,
Right.
which he needed last turn.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was a misorder or intentional, but I don't know that I would have done that, but I would love to hear what he was thinking right about then.
Yep. All right. So let's see where we get to in the fall. So Austria again, maybe, but Rat's certainly not. Rat's cut out here. So, but he knew it. He went from Bohemia to cover Vienna. So I wonder if the diplomatic change, the tone changed, and he realized the writing was on the wall. So, what do you think? Austria now at this point is like Germany, where you're figuring out how to stay alive, Corey?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's obviously hoping to get some Austrian dots, to get some builds. He knows that, I mean, France is in Tyrrhenian Sea now. His best bet is builds in Rahman, Naples. So it could just be that he successfully went to Marcus and Nicholas and said, I'm still your best partner. Help me get those builds so I can stop France as soon as possible.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate to see it run out this way, but it does mean that Jackson is around a little bit longer. So maybe my pick does have some steam left in him.
And good defense from Nicola in the north. Lots of red arrows up there.
Yeah, this is good defense, and look, John Anderson now has somebody who is, taking advantage of that army, which is right in the center of the board in an important position. Nicola, wisely uses that. It doesn't achieve anything, but it stopped the EF until they can get into the Baltic Sea. So that's really important. The North is kind of a bit of a guessing game. At some point, things will break through. Conrad probably isn't too unhappy that he's not in Norway at this point. He's not in Sweden. He'd love to get in there, but he didn't guess correctly. But, the danger here right now, I think, is that France's building just got into the Tyrrhenian Sea easily. And, Italy does get 2 builds, though, to build at home to defend. But is it too little, too late?
Let's see where else.
Know.
Yeah. I clicked away from the button, so the colors went away. But all right, so we've seen so for positioning. So as you said, 2 builds because picked up 2 centers, lost 1, but pulled 1 off the board. Which I guess the retreat to Eastern Med might have been either not. We can't agree upon it. Maybe he knew it was coming and said, "All right, look, I'll pull it off. You can pull your fleets out, Turkey, and we can settle it." And he puts down. He knows if he puts down 2, now the fleets in the south outnumber France's, even though France likely builds Fleet Marseille. And Albania is probably the one to go if you're Italy or if you're Austria, Corey.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not building a fleet right here. I'm putting an army in Marseille to go to Piedmont. I need an army into the boot. And then I can, convoy if necessary from North Africa down the road, but I want to get an army in Italy now. I want to flag something. We talked about Jackson being too patient. I don't know if it was Jackson or Marcus or how they managed that negotiation, but this is a really, really good play that just happened right here. However it came about, they are eliminating Italy and Jackson got enough builds to at least hold himself, because he's going to go Trieste to Venice. This was a really, really nice move, and I just want to call it out for what it was.
Excellent. Yeah, that's where maybe the patience. He knows he's going to get his opportunity, especially with all four powers in the East still kind of being, there's enough centers to be stabbed by someone, and he was the beneficiary of making that move, knowing he's got some pressure from France. He can go to Turkey and say, I need this, and because he asked, he got it. Could
be. I mean, yep. I would love to know how that, like the genesis of that. That's where the being an analyst is challenging, but we can call the good move when we saw it, and that was sweet.
Excellent. And then one other, so about the North, I know we kind of skipped a little over with Russia's defense. Was there? Go through any here. So could Sweden have been guaranteed here? I think I saw something in the comments. Was there anything that Conrad was a little too cute or conservative on, or is this about as best as he could have done?
You could guarantee Sweden, but then you can't guarantee that you hold Kiel, is the challenge there. So if you do, because Skagerrak is an uncuttable support. So Denmark to Sweden supported by Skagerrak, with North Sea tapping Norway. But then you are leaving Denmark open, so you could get somebody sliding in there, or you could get an attack on Kiel. So you're stuck with a bit of a choice. And I think Conrad in this instance played the safe game rather than maybe the aggressive game, because he didn't want to lose Kiel. That's my guess of what he was probably thinking.
Sure, and I bring that up.
I feel like Conrad has to, right? I think Conrad being just taking this slowly a little bit with more defense is not necessarily the wrong choice.
And that's exactly what I was going to ask you, Corey. So a lot of the times that we've been on, I know you and I have been on, has been time limited games. And so a lot of our analysis has gone to how do you got to be a little more aggressive, because you got to get the most you can out of a 7-hour game or a 10-year game. With these games being time unlimited, does that maybe, if you're England in that position, do you play for position, or do you say, you know what, Maxime is running away with things, he's moving back to Belgium, not that he knew that necessarily, but how do you play, knowing you've got all the time in the world, do you play it differently?
I think a little bit defensive for Conrad, a little bit slow is okay. Yep. Particularly in this game, particularly with the fact that they have a lot of time, and it doesn't feel like his moves are theoretically wasted.
Yep.
There's sometimes where patience or defense, like you're saying, hey, everyone else around you is operating in a way where you can't afford to do that right now. Sure. But Conrad has plenty of leeway, I think.
Yeah, and I don't think Maxim going to Belgium was against a stab. I think he was thinking, well, I've got to get somebody down to Ruhr, so he's moving to Ruhr. There's no way that he knows for sure that Bohemia is going back to Vienna, because that stab, by Italy. How do you know that's happening? So they're looking at, they've got 3 there. They could support up to Tyrolia. That's 4 armies on the line. We need to be in position to have 4 armies, so I need to get to Ruhr. Okay. So that's my expectation. Look, the North is a series of guesses on offensive guesses for Conrad. For example, he could have thought that Norway to Sweden supported by Baltic was in the offering, with St. Petersburg to Norway. And if that's the move, then he slides into Norway with that supported convoy. It's just a bunch of guesses. So let's,
sure.
Good defense and good offense sometimes look like bounces. Conrad took a safe play there, and there's nothing wrong with that.
All right. So Doug, you're saying Army Marseille. We're guessing 2 fleets for Italy, and my prediction was Albania would be off the board, and so he builds 3 there. Oh, so it's
because
+2 and a rebuild. What did he?
Yes.
What else? Oh yeah, Greece. I forgot to mention.
Yeah.
He
had a fleet that they pulled off the board.
Yep. Oh wow. So I forgot about I missed Greece. I don't know where I. Maybe did he get 2 popped? I can't count.
No. He had had the fleet in Aegean pulled off the board. Remember when Marcus came out, and so he was entitled to a rebuild. Yeah,
but then picked up 2. Oh, so 3 and 1. Okay. Yeah, but 3 and 1.
He had 1 disbanded.
Yeah.
He
Okay.
had one discount. Yeah.
Oh, and Tunis. Tunis was also Tunis retreated. All right, I'll look at it as we go forward onto the next game. But all right, so we see the builds. We're gonna go to the other game, but before we go there, how about an initial wrap up?
Something's not right there. I'm doing the count right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on the board.
Yeah, that's what I was doing the math. That's what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? You guys can't see.
One, two,
you
three,
can't. Yeah, you
four,
can't see
five,
my mouth.
Oh, 7. Yeah.
All right, so great. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 centers.
Is the red circle around the fleet? Does that mean like he clicked that and it didn't get built or something?
Oh, maybe he knew he was going. Or can I do that with the shows? Nope, that doesn't work either. We
have some commenters saying maybe it won't show up. Maybe it's just an issue.
As we
we'll
switch
see what
over,
the board looks like. Yeah.
As Brandon.
We're demonstrating that we can count. So nicely done.
So now I don't feel as crazy. So all right, so we're good. All right, so with that on the board, let's pretend that Venice is not there. So your initial predictions of Conrad and Jackson are looking good. Any change to that as we switch to the other game, and we'll refresh this? But how do you see it progressing? Who you got?
I'll go first in this. I still like Conrad's game here. But obviously, Maxime is playing fantastically well. He's in great shape, and he's driven all the way to the Tyrrhenian Sea. He's leading this board right now. So, between the E and the F, I don't really care. I'd be happy with being either one of them.
Yeah, Corey, anyone in the East that can match potential in the West?
I don't know. I mean, I think Jackson has played relatively well, even if I have maybe unfairly criticized him a little bit about being too defensive. But he doesn't look terrible to me given Maxim's positioning. He doesn't look awful. I think Marcus might be okay. I don't see him as maybe having a board top, but I see him as doing pretty well. And I don't know. I think it's going to depend on Maxim's ability to stay friendly, because if he's really clearly the front runner, then I don't know why Conrad at some point would be like, let me put some brakes on that. So I don't know.
Definitely. And then we'll get back, and as we restart again, as we get there, we'll flip the sides, and we will kind of go into how do you see the negotiations play out as both of you being on winning top boards before. How does your negotiations how do they change when you get to this point in the game? So I'm excited to hear.
Yeah.
So you hear that?
I'll tell you one negotiation that I can guarantee is happening in that game right there is Nicola is saying, I get Vienna. 100%.
With that, we will go to board 2, the Larry Peary board. So Larry, and you talked about kind of Eddie in your opening, playing since 1965. We found out from the Encyclopedia of All Diplomacy Knowledge, David Hood, that Larry started playing in 1964. So not from the very start of the game, but pretty darn close. Right from the beginning, he was an integral hobby organizer. The one thing I was going to jump in with Doug's conversation about Eddie is the Lepanto became popular because of the zines. All of this was distributed differently than emails and blogs and Discord and Reddit like we have today. It was a different style, and Larry was always involved with those from the beginning, and DipCon turning it into the North American Championship and World DipCon kind of being born out of that. So the things that we as in-person face-to-face players kind of hold most dear to our heart, those tournaments are where I met Larry, I know was at the 2010 DipCon in San Francisco. I remember we were sitting around a board because neither he nor I were in great shape at the time, but he had an app on his phone, and I probably had a flip phone still at the time, but he had an app that he was like running simulations of how his moves were going to go. And I was like, that's kind of creative. And now you don't go to a house game where people aren't taking pictures of the map rather than the things that are in the board. Everyone's taking screenshots with their phone or their pictures with their phone, and you can play with it, get a to wipe. So Larry was well ahead of his time. 10 years ago. I thought I laughed when I saw we were talking about it, and of course 10 years gone by. He was spot on with that. So and then lastly, on a personal note with David, is Larry was the one who kind of motivated a tournament to be held in North Carolina, for which most of our viewers knows that the longest standing club tournament at this point is DixieCon. So we've had some legends in the hobby, and I'm really excited to see. I'm not going to be on all the broadcasts, but I'm definitely tuning in to see about that. Doug, Corey, I don't think you've played with Larry, but Doug, you've had to have run across him on a board or two.
Yeah, I played with Larry and spent time, after games hanging out with him. He was always very welcoming, and he was really one of the nicest people that I've ever sat around a diplomacy board with. And lovely, lovely human being, and very sad that he's passed on now.
Yeah. All right. So as we get to the Larry Peary board, I wonder if we'll get any technology out of some youngsters on this board. I see a lot of younger players. We've seen many of these before, I think, probably, and we'll get down the list. But I think sorry, I want to open this up. Sorry, lost my spot. But here, we'll go down the list, and we've got Natty Schaefer in Austria, and I want to just kind of go on the bids again. We're getting to the bidding process. We got everyone but one player got their top two bids. So here, I get this. Natty, unfortunately, was the only one. He got his third bid as Austrian. So I know Austria is a country I do not enjoy playing. And so this one was the only one where it fell to a third bid. England, Russ Dennis, as you know from many of the diplomacy marketing with England, he comes in with the number one bid on that board for England. Alessandro Tavani, the least amount of games of any player on this board because he's an online player. I believe his invitation, if not guaranteed, but he got a huge amount of points from the Nexus season victory. So while a very high seed, not as much playing time necessarily with many of the other players on the board. So we'll have to see if familiarity comes into play with his bid. Tommy Tombstone Anderson, as Zach Moore likes to call him, got Germany. So we have John Anderson in Germany on the board one, and we got Tommy Anderson on Germany in board two. So whoever's calling the Germany analysis in this game won't be hard to remember Anderson there. So Tommy got his number one seed with that bid. So that's awesome. We've got Brad Blitzstein, who is a face-to-face player, in-person face-to-face player from Vermont. I've met him my couple of trips up to Carnage. Snuck in. He was the very last alternate so far at this point. I know we're waiting on a couple other alternates maybe to join in as we get through the fun. Brad got his number one pick, and as we find out, Russia, Sergei Sergin, is from 30 minutes away from where Brad is. As we were getting the locations for everyone on this top board, when Sergei said, "Oh, I'm from Lebanon," Brad boastfully goes, 30 minutes away, and so we find out that actually they work in the same town or something or other. So I don't know if we've built an alliance based on that. So we'll find out as we go through. Sergey got his number one bid with Russia. And then lastly, and not leastly on this board, Hunter Catcher from New Haven, who this week was National Pizza Day sometime during this week. And I know there were many social media awards. I know that everyone else who fights for it gets second place because of Chicago's deep dish. And unabashed fan of the deep dish. But New Haven and Pepe's, I think it is world renowned for their pizza. Hunter picked turkey again, and he got his #1 bid on that as well. So again, 5 of the 7 players on this board got their #1 bids. Of the 14 total today, we've got 10 who got their top bid. So clearly the bidding system is doing it, and randomized too. We didn't go into this last time, but as we start this game, you could see the seeds on the board coming in. You could see there's only one top 7 player and only one 8 through 14. So the seeds, again, not necessarily a ranking of their play, but a lower seed. So we're getting an average of nearly 17 for the average ranking for board 2. Board 1 was pull that up real quickly. Board 1 was near 15, so closer to an average board. So seed wise, it's a little weaker. But Corey, what do you see with some of the players on the board?
I'm very excited for this board. I know almost all these folks, either because I've played with them or because I've been their GM in one of the virtual games that we've played in the last year and a half. I'm not as familiar with Alessandro and Brad, but I'm really excited to see what they do with this particular placement. I love to see Tommy Anderson on here. I hope that his Germany has a better game potentially than our last Germany has. But I think this is going to be exciting. I think this is a good board. Interested to see how these guys' negotiation styles play with each other.
Doug, I know you know Brad from Face to Face and Hunter from definitely some World DipCons. I think that we've seen any dynamics on this board, given that there's a play by email or extended deadline play. There's face to face play. Anything stand out?
From playing in DixieCon and Cascadia, one of the things that I think everybody struggles with a little bit is making sure that you're maneuvering back and forth between your dialogue on Discord, going from room to room, getting your orders in. And I actually think that some of the email players, as a consequence, have a little bit more of an advantage because they're used to that, whereas we are writing them down and walking around the room. So I think that sometimes the face-to-face players don't quite do as well with that technology challenge and adapting. So I'd be curious, for some of our email players, is that an advantage, like for Russ coming in here? It'd be fun to hear some on that.
And as we got in, I mentioned Brad being the 28th seed as it comes in. His actual standing was 36. I think I don't know if the full results are on the website or not, but he snuck in with some late play. Russ Dennis got a decent result at Cascadia that kind of pushed him over the top. So some late good play by a couple players. So we'll see if some of the momentum carries over as we start this game. So
yeah, I'm glad Brad made it because he had a technological glitch in the game, one of the games we played in Cascadia, which really was very costly and killed his position. So I'm glad that didn't curse him forever.
All right. So before I go into based on the board, what are you looking to see? Let's do an over under of how many technological glitches in the game, not just from Brad.
I'm hoping for 0. So that's my hope.
Yeah, I don't want to see any NMRs on this board.
All right. So if I did over under of 0.5, you're both going lower. I, as knowing a little information, will not comment, but hopefully we won't see any. So all right, but to the more serious part of it. So anything stand out east versus west on where these players fell? Any alliances that you'll see? Anything personality relationships you may have seen on boards before too?
No, these are all good players. These are everybody here has experience and they're strong and smart and they know what they're doing.
Yeah. All right. Well, then we'll go with we'll switch it up. We'll give Corey the West in this one to get her some warm up before we do the West in the other game. So we'll do 2 Wests in a row and we'll start in the West in the spring of 01. Corey, what do you see?
Well, I would say it's pretty standard moves, except for the supported entry into Burgundy. I doubt that Tommy knew that was happening, but I also think that's a little bit strong coming out of the gate from Alessandro. I don't know if that's on purpose to freak Tommy out or whatnot. It'll be interesting to see kind of what he's actually planning to do there. Is he really just going for Tommy out the gate? I don't know.
That's Corey. That's actually how I most of the time open as France. And if you're unsure of what's happening and you think you might get attacked, it guarantees that you will protect all your home centers and build one at the same time. That set of orders.
I mean, okay, that's great. Interesting though. I wouldn't have thought that I would have that read on Tommy, as Tommy is not a particularly straight out the gate aggressive player in my experience. But I don't know. Interesting move.
Yeah, we'll see if we'll see how.
Yeah. Ooh is right.
Oh, I just saw that.
Yeah. Oh, Turkey Hunter. That's not good. He could very well be denied build at all, depending on what happens in this season. And that really is going to dominate the game going forward, I suspect. It looks to me, with Brad and Natty's moves in Italy and Austria, respectively, that they have an agreement about Trieste. If you did not have an agreement, we'll see a fight break out, maybe, but I think they probably had an agreement. And the bounce in Galicia was probably arranged, and I expect there was a bounce in the Black Sea that was arranged that ultimately didn't happen. So for me, obviously, the two things that really could be interesting, if this was not an agreement and Brad just walked into Trieste, this actually gives Austria, like, for once, the opportunity to kick him out and not pay a price, which could be really fun. But it's going to be hard for people not to just want to jump on the remnants here of Turkey, who never gets out of the box at all, even to Bulgaria.
So we'll clearly ask that question again, maybe in a year or two. Do you expect any more NMRs now that we've seen one in the first year or so? It is sad, but we will see if there's any comeback potential. We'll get to the fall. So let's start in the East in the fall and look at that. Support from a friendly neighbor. So what kind of diplomatic battle did that take to win that order?
Maybe not much. It very well could have been like, hey, we were going to work together anyway. Let's work together. And take a look at the moves from Austria and Italy. Obviously, that was arranged. And instead of taking Tunis, Italy is going to the Aegean Sea for the early pace on Turkey. So, very well could have been Russia's like, well, I'm going to stick with you. Alternatively, it could have been great diplomacy by Hunter. They could have seen the writing on the wall. But it turns out to be a really great play for Russia, because not only are they in the Black Sea, but they're in Galicia and Romania at the same time. So that's a really great position for Sergei. Good job taking advantage of what could have otherwise been a disastrous situation. A nice recovery by Hunter.
I think it's a very likely grateful Hunter at this particular point. Mm-hmm. So Sergei's one support may have won him a pretty staunch ally for this game.
And not that I want to go into scoring system and how people might play on here, but maybe with old tribute, which I think a couple of the games were last year, it doesn't reward a second place player as much as open tribute. I think this one's being called. So maybe Hunter can go, okay, look, I can tag along and be a second. And so I don't know if that changes how we thought. I'm sure we'll get some input. I see Tommy Anderson is already commenting in here, so we'll go through that. But what about the West, Corey? What anything of note?
Well, someone in the comments said that they thought there might have just been a right out of the gate alliance EF, and that is exactly what it looks like to me. Unfortunately, that probably spells doom for Tommy. No spoilers, though, Tommy, on what's going to happen. But I mean, this is great, and also has potentially a negative flip side. I feel if I'm the rest of the board and I'm seeing just this immediate jump for builds for Russ and Alessandro, I'd be very worried if I was anyone other than them, which is the majority of the board. So I hope that it doesn't freak people out enough to materially change the game. Oh, but Tommy has 2 builds. That's not bad.
Yeah, no,
Good for him.
about the bounce to keep Munich clear, obviously, and again, Doug's in the East, so we won't get his perspective on this, but you still have your chance of builds negotiated. Maybe he saw it coming. Obviously, with the forced move to Burgundy, not necessarily, anti-German, but certainly something in the back of his mind as he goes forward. So,
I'd be pretty surprised if EF is not just going to go straight for Germany.
Yeah.
At this particular point, I'd be extremely surprised if that's what happens.
Bounce in Sweden though, so not as friendly as our first board, but with us differently than the first board. It looked, although the first board RT was together in a very similar tactical position, I think, when they built, because it was 2 fleets on Aegean at that point. So again, without going into predictions necessarily of every build, is there anything that will define an alliance other than what we've already talked about?
The East, I think, is all pretty transparent what people ought to do. I think Russia should build in Moscow right here, not in Warsaw, not in Sev. Turkey should be putting a fleet in Smyrna, obviously an army in Vienna. Although the last time I played as Austria, I was joking, why can't I build a fleet on the Danube the whole game? And then, Italy is going to put a fleet down. For me, what's really interesting is actually what do England and France build for you, Corey?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking it's going to be, I don't think there's going to be a fleet in Brest. I would maybe a fleet in Marseille, but I definitely see an army Paris, maybe a double army build from France, and a fleet for sure, and maybe an army for Russ.
I see that opening in Picardy right now, and I'm like, I really want to put a fleet in Liverpool right now, and say to Germany, like, let's roll this guy, because he, I think he might be able to get away with it.
He might. I don't know, but for me, my gut is saying EF, not FG, but it could be FG.
Yeah, well, if it's the gut feeling. Whoa.
Oh,
Doug,
all right.
did Doug have some insider information on that one? That he put those down. But so based on that though, is that a reading of the board? Obviously, you don't know the personalities, but if you see that as in England, you're looking to say, what can I do?
Well, I'm looking here at the board and what the position is, and the fact that Germany and France just attacked each other. The board position gives me the opportunity to get some pace and jump on France, and Germany is probably with me. Why not take that? Yeah,
and I know that was wrong side. Doug's prediction of that. So I mean, Corey, in the East, I don't say anything other than Doug was thinking Moscow. If you're Russia in that spot, what does Warsaw do for you that Moscow doesn't?
Oh, I definitely would have built Moscow.
Yeah,
I was with Doug on that prediction. Mostly, I'm just floored that this didn't go the way that I thought it was. I was convinced this was an EF.
The Leviathan, as Mr. Hood says, but no, not that we've seen there. And there's really no way, Corey, is there any way to work out of this position? Or if you're Alessandro right now, are you just looking going, oh, man?
I mean, I don't. It depends, right? Some people come into it and they stick to whatever they're going to stick with and they never budge. But I would say that if with the caliber of players we have here, I don't think that there's anyone who could say like, oh, I'm for sure 100% committed to something forever for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's likely. And Tommy's pretty gregarious. He's easy to talk to. Maybe Alessandro can get Tommy to flip or Russ to flip.
And you look at the builds too. So Doug, 2 armies for Germany, and a fleet Brest. So I mean, everything that we thought about EF. I mean, maybe the army sure could be used defensively or whatever, but that almost seems prearranged, kind of like last time where we said everything with France and England and Russia was prearranged. Might this have looked a little, different coming out of the gate?
I think this game looks very different if you have a French and English bounce in Belgium rather than a poke at Munich. Giving England 5 in 0-1 is really very powerful. England at 5 is really powerful. And, you know, as France in that situation, I would rather have had a bounce in Belgium than a bounce in Munich. Just me personally.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then we've gotten through. Or this is going to be. I want to see the West first. So, Corey, as we get into spring 02, there is all-out war on France. So France looks great in the other game. In this game, not looking good. So, what do you think?
I mean, I would love to know what the conversations were prior to this. If Tommy and Russ really worked this out, maybe even potentially faking Alessandro into thinking something was going to happen that wasn't. I would love to know. I think this is a pretty great attack. It surprised me. I also think it's great or interesting that Tommy's gone to Bal from Denmark. I find that to be an interesting choice. I hope Alessandro is coming to the table still, though, and asking for something. We're trying to come up with some agreement with either Russ or Tommy, maybe based off of who do you think is going to get whose dots. That would be kind of how I would be approaching it at this point, is maybe going to Tommy or going to Russ, actually, probably more likely, and saying, like, do you really think you're going to get the fair split of this deal? That's probably where I'd be. But yeah. I'd be pretty nervous if I was Alessandro.
Well, so then, Doug, are you talking to, if you're Alessandro, you're going to Italy? It's very, wide open down there. How's the East playing out, and how can Alessandro either get help or, deal with what he's got going on?
Well, we don't know exactly what's going on. This could be the move by Sergei here to Bohemia, could be part of trying to wrap around Austria and cut around. But combined then with Venice to Tyrolia, again, that could be a defensive play. But the thing about being in those types of positions when they're now on Munich is you do have to pay attention to that as you're Germany. Like, you can't just ignore it. And so even though maybe that wasn't the intent, the impact can be very different from why somebody moved there, and that can change those plans going forward. So, the Tyrolia Bohemia situation here could really change this dynamic. I love Russ's position. Whose position is really kind of interesting now is Brad's. Take a look at what just happened. He got into Bulgaria, and yeah, he loses the Aegean Sea. So what? He still hasn't taken Tunis. He's up in Tyrolia. He could affect like a fantastic stab on Austria potentially. In the meantime, Turkey is getting pushed back in the box. Really nice position for Brad right here.
All right, so Brad, of course, a great position. Does Natty play a little? Oops, did I click through? I'm sorry, I clicked small window on there. We got Natty's. I'm sure. I don't know who Brandon recruited to get these profile pictures. If Natty's mom sent it in, or if this is his Facebook picture or what. But is Brad's success because of a good alliance, or setting it up? I mean, how does Natty, again, like the patience of Jackson, is he playing the alliance? Look, I want to get Italy some good going so that way we can, because again, you mentioned about Austria and trying to build a fleet in the Danube. How'd that work for you as Austria in that game? You got a double-digit number, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I formed a strong alliance with Italy and stuck with it through the game. Instead of trying to, fight to keep building fleets, I had fleets. They were Italy, while I had lots and lots of armies. And so, as Austria, what I'm trying to do, if I'm giving Trieste up, is to basically form a circle of armies that are, moving out into the periphery in multiple directions. Like, I'm pushing south, almost like a shock wave of red, down to the south to push Turkey back into Turkey, to push north and get Russia out there, trying not to go into Germany, but away from that direction. And if you can do that as Austria, you're going to be in fantastic shape. And that's what your goal ought to be if you're giving up Trieste. So, I've played with Natty. I've seen him play. I've talked with him. He's a strong player. I'm not actually sure that he is as risk averse, maybe as the play style indicates here. I think he's willing to take a swing every now and then for stuff. I've certainly seen him do it.
So in a top board situation, it's you have, and this is a little different than a single game top board. But you come in, you need. It's like a Saturday going into maybe a final round of a tournament. You need a result on one of these boards. He got his third pick in Austria, so he's going to get this out of the way. I don't know if it's possible to play the same one twice, but. Maybe he goes, look, I'll build an alliance in the first game and then break out. Is there a different strategy you might take going into a situation like this type of tournament?
A lot of people play different types of games based off of a tournament structure. I try to keep it simple, stupid. Kiss. Get big every game. And don't like stop and settle like, oh, this is fine, this is good enough. Like, you should always be trying to continue to get big, position yourself potentially to get a solo opportunity. Don't overthink this stuff. Like, that's really what I want to emphasize for people. Just the only time that you really need to like overthink it is if it's like Saturday night and you need a big result for a top board. Then obviously you're going to keep playing until you get a big result. If you need a solo, then you got to figure out, how am I going to solo this game? And that's really the only time where you should be like really overthinking it. I hear people oftentimes saying like, oh, don't get a good result on Friday night. No, get a good result on Friday night, please.
Can't win unless you get a big number. You might as well get it when you can, right? All right, so back to the board itself. So where does that leave us? We're going to go, here's the map. EG, piling strong, Russia pulled back St. Petersburg, EG strong up in the north, and we'll see where that leaves us with AI, RT around the board. I see more red in the west. So Doug, let's start in the east. What do you see?
Lots of black arrows in Turkey. So remember when I talked about the opportunity that Brad had to stab for 2 dots right here? Guess what he just did? He just took a couple of dots. So he gets into Greece, he gets into Vienna, and he takes Tunis. Wow.
So wow. You either have an inside read at this game or you know the game pretty well. So we've got Brad really started out. Corey, a lot of red in the west. I mean, a lot of red. Like not even a single black arrow. I think you're on mute. Ooh, you are on mute. Corey, unmute.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Yeah, a lot of red, a lot of attacks that didn't go anywhere. So, good job, Alessandro. Interesting that there wasn't any movement, but I think it's not surprising maybe. I do like how Tommy and Russ are playing together, is both engaging with Russia and with France in a kind of coordinated way. That's fantastic. I hope we see some actual movement next year instead of just red lines, but we'll see.
So the one thing about the red line, at least the Sweden, yeah, it's a bounce, but that's an advance. So we're going to get a build.
Russ opened up. He went to the North Atlantic and he's in the English Channel. He opened up so he can build another fleet in Liverpool. He's dropping to the Irish and he's going to try and force them in Atlantic.
Yeah. To the defense, though, so Alessandro, again, being an email or an extended deadline player, the tactics, in order to be real good in those types of environments, you've got to be a great tactician. I know we saw Jackson in a couple of previous tournaments. When you can, obviously, the name of the game is diplomacy, like David Hood says, but if you can rely on some tactics in a situation from this where you're not winning diplomatically, can you change the tables? If Brad's getting the 3 builds, is that more worrisome for France or what do you think? I mean, Corey, where does Alessandro go from here, knowing England's building and Italy's building?
I mean, I certainly would have been talking to Brad during this round and saying, like, what are your plans with your builds? I don't know if anybody besides Brad knew how many builds he's going to have this year, but I would definitely be talking to him. Maybe he's your ally. Maybe Brad is more interested in finishing off Natty and going for Hunter than he is going for Alessandro, in which case France may have a shot against this pretty strong attack coming at him from the rest of his neighbors.
Yeah, so we see Fleet Liverpool coming down, is what Doug's saying here. I assume 2 fleets and an army in Italy, and then as far as the Austrian removal, Ionian would be way more fun to keep around. It doesn't help at all at home. So
yeah, he's not going to do anything. It's not like Brad's not going to fill up those dots. Yeah.
Right.
So, all right. So we got everything that was expected. So what going into spring at this turn, who has to work the hardest diplomatically other than Alessandro?
For me, actually, Brad really needs to work the diplomatic channels. Both Russia and Turkey were supporting him into dots. That could be, if they're going to stick together, they could have pulled him out of position and now work together to regain those dots in the chaos of Natty and Brad fighting. So Brad's objective here is to make sure that one of Sergey or Hunter is actually going to be willing to work with him.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
All right. Well, let's see if they are going to work with him. Well, more red in the West, Corey. I think we let you think about all that red too much last time. How about we just go straight to the red this time?
A lot of, defensive moves, largely successful other than Burgundy. I mean, Germany is advancing pretty easily into Alessandro's territory. It's unfortunate Alessandro wasn't really able to get through any of his more important moves, but not surprising. And just like Doug predicted, Russ is now an Irish, which I think we knew was going to happen. So I think Italy has got to get involved or not get involved really quickly. Either he's going to let Alessandro get killed, or he's going to come back and try and offer some support. Maybe he's doing that with going to Piedmont and Tyrrhenian Sea just to hold Marseille or help Marseille hold. Maybe not. But if it was me, I don't think if I was Brad, I would be terribly interested in Alessandro just getting crushed. I think I might be pretty easily persuaded to help out.
Yeah, Doug, is that your read too, Doug, on Piedmont and Tyrrhenian?
Well, everything should be viewed through the lens of what he thought Natty was going to do and what he thought Hunter and Sergey were going to do, and none of them did. Mm-hmm. So those red dotted lines with circles there look like he was supporting Romania and Bulgaria to Budapest and Serbia respectively, and they did not do that, instead taking Greece. Now, that in and of itself is not the end of the world. It's a fleet sort of supporting a fleet, so it's like, whatever. But it indicates here that RT are together and staying together. And that's going to be problematic. It means he did not get the kind of alliance negotiated that he would have wanted.
Yeah. So as we get there, maybe better than the baby picture last time, not the baby, but the kid picture. So is that the type of negotiation style that he maybe took that slid away from I'll give you centers? Maybe not, Brad. I don't know what he's patient, but he's played aggressively. I gotta hand this off. Someone's got to take this from me, please.
Brad's a good player. I actually think Brad is. He's certainly patient, but he's not aggressive is not the right word. He will, he is going to move. He's going to make a play. He's not just going to sit back and let the board impact him. He is going to make his mark in the game.
And if I remember correctly, so Total Con is how he got here. Total Con might have been an in-person event. Not taking credit away, but if you, the 2 players who qualified for the top 28 who actually played the in-person face-to-face were both obviously face-to-face players. So it'll be interesting to see if how that translates to that. But based on the fun fact, splitting the board top, maybe he got big and tried to jump back. Okay, Russia, I'll give you one. Okay, Turkey, I'll give you one. Can we at least make this work? So I hope that picture's on his trophy when if he wins this. I got to get away. All right, so back to the game. Anything else in the rest of the East? Any
It's,
position?
you know, looks like RT to me.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So into the fall, the biggest is Alessandro's defense going to hold up? EG stay together. See how the Southeast kind of plays out. A lot of black in the in both sides of the board. More black on the West than before. But Corey, why don't we do the West here?
I mean, as we were expecting, Russ is an MAO. I find it interesting Alessandro went to West instead of Portugal or Spain, but I mean, he was going to have to move. A lot of supported attacks that didn't go anywhere. Yeah, I obviously I was wrong, right? Brad came in with Piedmont and he's not helping. He's going for Marseille. I hope they at least tried, even though he definitely didn't get anything out of it. At this point, for me, it kind of looks like if Alessandro is not going to or is not able to get some negotiation going with his neighbors, that they're just going to position him to a point where they can stop him from breaking all of these attacks. And that's kind of where it looks like it's going from my perspective.
Yeah, Doug, there's a little rebound from Austria.
Well, this is interesting. So, you know, obviously you affect the stab, and it, you know, looks like Hunter and Sergey lured Brad in, and, you know, now they're driving him back. You know, you've got Russia replacing in Vienna. You've got Turkey is now in Greece. You've got Budapest kicking Brad out of Trieste, but then Brad slides that retreat into Budapest. That was rude.
Yeah, and
So
the tactical blunder in the sense that if you think you have allies from the other side, the support from Serbia couldn't have been cut on that attack. But then you can't build.
You know, Brad's challenge has been that, you know, he made a great stab, right? But it was clear that it was at the behest and benefit for the long term of RT. Now he is in a situation where it doesn't really matter if he loses those builds. Like, right? I could pull Budapest and Albania and I don't really care. Okay? Because I might be able to get Marseille. So he's got a dire situation in the sense that he's pulling, but it's not the end of the world because, you know, England and France aren't going anywhere. And so Hunter's got to really play a game in his head of, do I really think I can get Italy down before England gets around Spain? Do I really think that? And that's what Brad needs to be talking with Hunter about, you know, and it's like, do I really think that's going to happen? It's tough to see that happening because France is going down.
Mm-hmm.
So with Russia's build, St. Pete something?
I'm building in Moscow.
Yeah.
No need to go and poke England right now. England wants to go attack France. Great. Stay away from me.
And then everywhere else, France got that Picardy was piffed, so a rebuild of Army Paris is all that can happen. The pulling, Italy, I'm not too concerned about guessing on Italy's pulls because there's a lot to think about. But
well, let me reevaluate. I'm building in Warsaw, and I am supporting myself to Prussia, and I'm supporting myself to Silesia, and I'm going after Germany right now.
All right, and well, there you go. Budapest goes, so maybe a friendly, all right, I'm out of your hair. Can we work together kind of thing? And then obviously the Army Paris. So and Fleet Smyrna, didn't want to leave that one out too, but that's to be expected. RT, all right, so we're going to switch back to the other game. This is at a kind of a point where we're not at a turning point, but maybe getting there. Before we leave, we didn't really have predictions. So we've gotten through the first 3 years. We really like Brad's play up until this last turn when he's lost 2. But you think G's under attack now, so England's sitting in the best spot. Any objection?
I think England is in a great spot. Russ is in an excellent position. And I mean, I think Hunter is also in an excellent position.
Yeah, I was going to ask. Dark horse is Hunter, maybe?
I think Hunter's in a strong position for sure. I really like Sergey's position right now. I think this is a very fun, dynamic spot to be in as Russia. As long as you can keep England diplomatically hanging out there, you can, you know, gain some real gains in the Balkans and move into the center of the board. And that's always a nice place to be as Russia. You know, you're not really in any threat from Turkey. So I like Russia.
Excellent. All right, we'll hold those thoughts. We're going to go back to Eddie Brisson and pick up where we left off here. So as a recap, we've got the Leviathan living in this one. Conrad took a little slow play on getting the tactics, but again, untimed, and we don't know how long they'll go, but we'll assume that he's got some play left. Jackson just got a nice stab, if you want to call it attack, probably, but in good position. And again, with Nicola on the board, you know, you've got you know, potential threat at all times. Okay, so let's just get on to, and last time, so Doug was in the West in this one, so we'll switch. We'll keep Corey in the West. And to start off, the West has been cleaner on this one. So Corey, why don't we start in the West?
Well, we see Maxim pushing east, which looks great from my perspective. I'm sure he was not surprised to be bounced in Tyrolia, but Piedmont should be able to help him out with that somewhat, depending on what Vienna's going to do, which is now in Bohemia. The Med looks a little bit locked up, which might be inevitable for a little bit until they get some positioning, but Jackson looks to be able to have kind of stopped from getting completely eaten immediately. And Conrad looks good. I mean, he's swinging around north. I think we were expecting that.
Yeah, to a lot of supports in red in the East, Doug, and not a lot of change.
Nope, not a lot of change. Look at all those fleet arrows down there, are like little support dashes for each other. That's always kind of fun. But you know, the significant thing here was really Vienna to Bohemia, supported by Galicia. Most of the other things bouncing doesn't really matter all that much. You know, I suspect here that Romania to Serbia was just an in case kind of thing, like, you know, in case you are doing something I don't like, I'm just going to tap this. Yeah. Because he didn't support it in there. So really what I see here is the East is deploying to stop the EF in the center of the board. And let's rewind like several hours ago, it seems like, when we talked about at the beginning, like the balance of power play. Here you have the East sort of like, okay, we'll come back and we'll resolve this later, but we got to play balance of power because the West is too strong. You know, between the two of them, they're already at 14. We really can't let them get too far over the line here. They've got Munich and Tunis. This is not ideal.
Yeah, that's what we were thinking with possibly that move to Bohemia, which I think someone predicted before we cut away, with Ben keeping a strong position and staying in the alliance. So let's move on as we're getting more tactics, a lot more red on this one. Corey, the West is just going to be easier. I think we'll just stay in the West to start unless I see anything terribly interesting. Although, now let's just do the West. But there is some fun in the East.
Yeah, so not a lot of super interesting stuff. Obviously, a lot of red lines, a lot of support orders. Nicholas is coming to do whatever he can up there to protect against Conrad. The only thing I think is interesting, but not terribly interesting, is Piedmont's in Tuscany now. Good job, but not terribly interesting in this particular round.
The one thing that's interesting in the Northwest, though, is North convoyed north to Eddie.
I saw that. That's a mistake. You know, that happens. That's, you know, we've seen that a lot of times with the interface here, where somebody tries to convoy and they click support or whatever. It happens.
Yeah. So, but
I totally missed the mistaken misclick there.
I just saw the red and I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Well,
right. Yeah. Right. That was a concession. I mean, Nicola was like, well, I can't hold Norway, so I'm just going to back off, is what we saw.
Well, saves it for a year. However, Nicola does not get saved everywhere, Doug.
No, I'm not sure how I feel about this right here. You know, Marcus is growing by 2 here. He takes Greece, and he's taking Sevastopol. I don't know that he needs to do that at this point. I mean, I think it's fair to say that Nicola does not need a fleet in the south. Maybe that was arranged, but it's in the fall, right? You know, if Nicola doesn't need that fleet, why not blow it up so he can rebuild an army in Moscow? So it looks to me like Marcus is going to make an attack on Nicola, and that's pretty significant because Nicola could just be like, well, I'm not defending against the EF now, and I'm going to let them roll this board as punishment. So could be tough.
So we've seen Nicola in other situations where the dynamic was going well, and then you get and I don't know the back channel on why Marcus did it, but you get something that is just off pace. So and Nicola will turn everything around. He'll go, you know what? Then if you're going to do that, we're going to flip the whole board. You know, he got here without winning a single tournament because his play is consistent. With the tournament, does he go with that? Does he go, you know what? I'll stick with my reputation of, you know, bottling up and stopping you, as opposed to, well, let's patch this up.
No, Nikolai is, first of all, I mean, I think I call him, he's sublime. Okay. He is so good at this game, and his diplomatic style is actually very humble in how he talks to people. He's very approachable. And he's also one of the strongest tactical and strategic focused players. He like really reads the board really well. He understands what's going on, you know, so nothing that Nicholas does surprises me because he's just that good of a player. So, you know, if that was a one dot, you know, he is going to make Marcus pay a price of some sort.
Yeah. Unless
Marcus comes with a really good offer of something.
And Corey, have you ever heard of mid-century modern playstyle?
It's actually not a play style. It is a furniture style.
He's gonna sit and park the chair after the stab. So we'll probably get some.
It's very in vogue right now.
Is it?
Yes.
That'll be on the DMZ show that Zach's putting together for Offsite. So, all right. So we've gotten there. Let's see what it looks like and get to the builds. So Marcus again is sitting in the corner, and you know, if EF is going to roll, maybe he says, all right, look, I'll try and get a number. You know, again, there's more benefit to a higher scoring non-topping power. So maybe he thinks, all right, let's just grind it down to a 3-way. Maybe that's, you know, we'll see where that goes. Doesn't help that he pulls that he takes one from Italy, and Italy has to pull because France certainly benefits, right?
Yeah, and look, the two people on the front line here are both pulling dots as a consequence of Turkey. Like when you play a patient Turkey in this situation, what you're really trying to do is prop up your allies on the line and get them locked into place so that when they inevitably start losing, they want you to take those dots from behind, and then you kind of like replace those. Yeah. So really, I mean, what he should be doing is like, why are you not just taking Serbia? Why don't you figure out how you take Serbia and, you know, make sure that Italy holds Trieste, right? That's what your goal should be in this situation, instead of taking Greece from Italy. You know, we'll see if it pays off. But for me right here, I think this was a misplay by Marcus, you know, stabbing the two frontline allies.
Yeah. Corey, what do you build then if you have to either recover or defend, or how do you build on this?
I probably... Definitely Army Con, and maybe Fleet Smyrna. I don't know. See, I'm not sure I would have done this at this particular time in this particular scenario.
Yeah,
the double army doesn't surprise me, though.
You can move to Bulgaria and you can convoy to Romania. Right.
Yeah, and that looks like the plan. And then so for non-retribution, Nicola does not pull up north. He pulls Armenia, which is, you know, useless, and Albania is the one to go. So they're kind of, maybe they're thinking about, okay, there's still chance to survive because as Brian mentioned, there is in the scoring system chance for survival. So
you know, look, if Marcus was able to persuade Jackson and Nicola to do that, then like, hey, that's A+ work right there. You know, if he just did it and they're mad at him, then that's not good play. So, maybe Marcus made a mistake, but maybe Marcus is also an awesome diplomat and got them to basically give him a dot each.
Well,
Hey,
based on the tactics you see here, Doug, it looks like it was diplomatically successful.
No, Nikolai is pissed. Look at him. He moved back everything off the line and just said, "Nope, screw you. England gets it all, and I'm coming after you with everything I can." So he's going to try and hold the Warsaw-Moscow line against Marcus and cede the north to Conrad. And Conrad is a good enough player here to know how to take advantage of this for his maximum benefit for the long term. So this is really big. In the meantime, this chaos also, look at like all of the shenanigans that are going on in the central part of the Balkans in Austria. You've got Bohemia running away. You've got Serbia going. It just opened everything up to like huge chaos, but EF stuck together.
Yeah, that was that firecracker we were looking for. Although Conrad being a great player, he just isn't good with the mouse, let's say. So second failed convoy in a row.
Yeah, that doesn't hurt him. He doesn't need to be in Holland right now.
It's just tempo. So anything else? The EF sticks together. Corey, anything else on that? I don't see much.
Nah, I mean we've kind of said where it's going at this point.
Yep.
Or where we think it's going.
Well, where is it going? Again, maybe he's just trying to purposely miss convoy now because there's just a hold. So let's not get into clicking style. But France's fleets finally have attack orders. Corey, what do you see him doing?
I mean, he's coming in, right? We saw him coming in. He's continuing to do so. With Marcus's move, he has to stabilize whatever was down there, whatever chance they had at holding it back. And it kind of looks like Italy is feeling the need to also punish Marcus a little bit. I mean, he's not putting up the best fight I've ever seen. Not surprised about Ben and Jackson's little switcheroo there with their switching dots. And seems to have worked out for Ben. So it looks like he's going to get to build. Yeah. Oh, no, he's not. He lost Serbia. Yeah, no. Not surprised. And John is now officially out. Good game, John.
Yeah. We've stopped talking. Yeah.
Conrad's picking up 2 right now, which is really strong. This move by Marcus is shaking up the game, but not to ultimately, I think, his benefit. He doesn't have a stalemate line back there that he can hold ultimately against France. And he's got a vengeful Russian who is, going to keep coming. So for me, at this point of the game, as we hit fall 06, I'm interested if like EF have a fallout here, because Conrad could drop 2 fleets down in Liverpool and London and really put a hurt on Maxime here.
I think they might, because Maxim has just now moved to Belgium.
So maybe Maxime sees it at that point. If it's Alliance player, it's worked really good so far. How do we assess him? Because I didn't think although he picked up, I know he walked right into Naples because and walked into Venice. Jackson walked out of Naples so that way he could walk in. So they're both building 2, if I remember from the centers. But does Maxime, who kind of waded his way through best countries, he had a lot of. I don't remember him topping. I know he had a really good performance at the virtual WDC top board, but the sideline reporters felt like he was being not pushed around, but being younger and being brought in. Is this where, again, Conrad being a more experienced player can push him around, or does Maxime learn from that and say, I'm getting mine, and either if I see anything bad, I'll tank your game, and then Marcus gets the benefit out of it?
I think Maxim knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Maxime knows what he's doing.
I think he did, as I recollect from that, it seems like, that was 2 years ago, but it was 2 months ago, right? He did sort of get pushed and felt like people put, the full court press on him, which, does happen. But, strong players learn from that. And I think we've seen that Maxime is a very strong player. He's really good at this game. And, great play here so far. So, he got a lot of best country awards. If you're getting consistently, if you're winning best country awards, you're putting yourself in position to win a tournament. So, that's good.
And if Conrad does stab him, maybe he'll swear at him in one of the 4 languages that he knows.
Or all 4.
Yes, that's true. And depending on how many Conrad knows, although Conrad being a world traveler, I'm sure he knows some too. But you can only find that out by signing up for the DBN Plus subscription service, which directly goes to my bank account. Oh, wait, no. Oh, wait. Sorry, the producers didn't like that. All right, so to the builds again. 2 for France, 2 for England. Nicola losing 1 again, and we'll see. In Italy, Jackson,
Wow.
yeah,
4.
yeah,
Yeah.
But Austria gets one. Ben, you can see the line moving up. So, all right. So let's if EF stays together. Nothing of consequence. Italy pulling, it doesn't really, matter too much at this point. Austria's build is guaranteed. Nicola, let's just see. I think at this point,
Nicola's pulling Baltic.
Yeah. And Turkey probably needs another fleet after the 2 armies last time, and got the fleet, got everything left Ionian. Yeah. 2 fleets and Fleet London. All right, maybe 2 armies. No, 1 army. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, he already had an army in Edinburgh. He needs a fleet anyway, so that's fine. Yeah. That's okay.
And didn't want to build the fleet in Liverpool because that's
I think this game might actually be on the downslope right here.
Yeah. Which I actually think is why Marcus might have made the decision he made earlier.
Yeah.
Because back then it was starting to think like maybe Marcus is just thinking like I know where this game is going. I want to at least get as big as I can before Maxim and Conrad get over here. And just go
if I'm Maxim right now, I'm doing the count. Like I'm at 10 senators. Like how am I going to be able to solo on this board? And that possibility is there. He's got 11 guaranteed from Rome. That's not going to get stopped.
All right.
No, but I think it's going to be a tie. It's going to be a tie.
Oh, he's pushing into the Ionian Sea right here.
Yeah.
11.
And a convoy to Belgium. This time the convoy worked. So, they traded. But I don't know if that was a planned bounce. Sometimes it's a fake out. Let's bounce in Holland, and it's not. So they bounce in the channel. We're still. Let's see. Corey's still in the. Even though I took all your tactical orders, any strategy other than maybe it's friendly Marseille to Spain?
I don't think it's friendly. I don't think at this point this is going to be friendly at all. I think Nicholas is going to do the best that he can to hold out for as long as he can. Same with Ben, but this is now a game between Conrad, Maxim, and Marcus. I don't know. Maybe Marcus was thinking this back when he stabbed his allies. I don't know, but if he's able to stay on the board and be competitive and really put a good fight to Maxim, then stabbing both of his allies might have been the right choice.
Yeah, if I stab, then will you stab?
A lot of black arrows for Marcus here. He's putting himself in good position. It's mostly defensive. The good thing for him is Conrad just took a swing, and he didn't hit a home run right here, but he's in pretty good shape. Let's call it what it is. It requires Tyrolia to hold Munich at this point. He's lost Belgium, but Conrad doesn't even have to take Belgium right now because he can walk to Burgundy potentially. He's got lots of opportunities. This is a fun position for Conrad right here. This is not great for Maxime.
And he used his debonair looks to woo over Maxime. Oh, look at this. I'm civilized. I would never attack you. Maybe not.
Conrad is very civilized, and he would attack you.
So that's right, and I do remember the waiving of the build for 6 years at Virtual WDC. Sometimes if it's just not worth having it, it's just not worth having it. So, Conrad, you've played against, or Doug, you've played against Conrad multiple times. Anything interesting about his play style that is unassuming?
That's not a bad way to talk about it. For some reason, somehow, I don't understand why people sometimes underestimate Conrad. He talks pretty softly. He is a tall guy, but even with that, he's sort of like, he's not using his height to try and intimidate you in his face-to-face style. And, he comes off as very thoughtful. He comes off as very strategically oriented and really focusing on what's happening, and he knows what's going on. And so, he honestly, he is a really great player. How anyone ever underestimates Conrad Woodring, I don't understand. He's one of the best players in the world.
And Corey's kind of flown in under the radar in some of these online ones, so we haven't seen him too much. But I know he's been to Chicago, and we'll look forward to getting him back once we're in person again. So, all right, and so that sets us up. Let's just take the guessing game out and go straight to the orders. Well, maybe, I don't know. Interesting. Corey, let's talk about that stab.
Yeah, are you talking about Bud DeSir?
Well, yeah. I mean, are you still in the West, or are you?
I don't know anymore.
Do the East. Do the East. Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised by that. What I am a little bit surprised of is that Marcus didn't even protect against getting stabbed by Ben. But, he has other things that are more important to him, I guess, right now. What I would find really interesting is if all of a sudden Ben is back in play at, 4, 5, 6 center Austria. That would be pretty hilarious. And it looks like he helped Jackson relocate to Venice, which I also find interesting. A little bit of a shakeup there. I thought that Jackson was definitely going to be out when he kept the fleet in Ionian and removed all of his other units. So good for him.
Doesn't get the build though for the retreat to Rome, but
he has punished Maxim a little bit, so good for him.
Yep. Doug in the north with Conrad tactfully walks out of Norway.
He can get Norway whenever he wants it. He made a deal with Nicola, and Nicola, like I said before, he was going to bear south with everything, and Conrad is a good enough player to take advantage of that and not just grab the dots for no good reason, but instead use Nicola to hold back Turkey to advance his own position going forward. So, obviously that's a great play. And it doesn't feel like, this is like the world's greatest move or anything like that, but he got into the English Channel. He grabs Belgium. He's putting himself up and he's setting himself up for a long-term control. He's going to get Munich all of a sudden. It's like, holy crap, Conrad's going to get really big here. He's going to 10 or to 9, excuse me. But look, Maxime is pulling 2. He lost Belgium and he lost Venice. Oh, he retreated to Rome. I take that back. So he's only losing 1. But Maxime's problem is he doesn't have enough at home ultimately to stop Conrad. That's his challenge right now.
My question is having the fleet go to Holland as opposed to convoying the army, is that going to slow him down, or tempo you don't care at this point?
That doesn't really matter because it can go, to the Blacks or to the North Sea, or it can go back to Helgoland to go to Denmark. That's fine. You kind of want to clear out of Helgoland. Actually, for me, what I would have done here is I would have pulled instead of gone to Ruhr, so that I could rebuild an army in Paris.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that does, like you mentioned, Conrad gets 1, France pulls 1, Austria gets 1, and
Oh wait, I take that back. He was pulling 1, so he doesn't get a rebuild.
Well, we'll see. Let's see what he pulls. He pulls Albania, furthest away from home, and not going to do anything else over there. So that makes sense. Fleet Liverpool, which here comes the attacks. Out Armenia goes, and of course Army Budapest. So.
Congratulations, Ben Kelman. Excellent recovery from my perspective at this particular point. Way to go.
Doubled the center count in 2 years.
Yeah.
So
good job.
Well, and he's in a position like Corey, you just flagged this. Like, look, he's in a position where Turkey needs him now.
Mm-hmm.
And so does France. I mean, if France Tyrolia to Munich and then Trieste and Vienna up, Venice is kind of locked in.
Everybody's going to be talking with Ben right now. This is a fun spot to be in. He might be one of those conversations we have after the game where somebody, don't ever give up play because you never know what's going to happen. You can get back in this.
Excellent example of that. Excellent example of a position in which you think there's no hope, and there was.
And I said there was no hope earlier, so I'm glad he played on. That's why I'm here. All right. So in the spring of 1908, I think that we'll get a little more deeper, big picture analysis once we get through this year. A lot of red on mainland in the West. Doug, I'll let you. Corey gets the bark every once in a while. So we'll Doug, what about the West?
Well, we've got a huge run. The fleets are going west at full speed to the Irish and to the North Atlantic. I gotta is that another failed convoy right there by Conrad?
I hope not. I really do.
No, it's English Channel was only two. There's only two on Picardy. Support from Belgium, and it's 2v2.
Okay. Good, because that would have been annoying. Conrad does need to make some progress here if he's going to figure this out, because at some point France's fleets are going to get back there. It looks like to me that Conrad saw the writing on the wall that maybe things weren't going to be so friendly from the east, and they weren't going to give him that much space. So he did go to Silesia. I'd be interested to know, what that was about. Was that part of a plan? Because right now he's starting to stall, and he needs to grow right now. He needs to figure out how he's going to get a dot or be in position next year to get two.
Did they make up enough in the southeast, Corey? It looks like Austria, instead of going full blast into Turkey, kind of pushes north. So,
I mean, he does, but I think the real problem here, especially given that Maximus turning around, is that Marcus doesn't have enough armies on the board. I would have wanted to trade out one of those fleets for an army, but given where we were last year, I wouldn't have said that. So it seems like you're adjusting your play based off what you thought was going to happen. But Ben coming back really has thrown a wrench in this, and I think it's actually going to change the tempo of the board more so than maybe another player coming back would have.
I love this play style. So is there a chance for his solo on this board still, Doug?
It'd be tough with a bunch of French fleets in the Ionian and holding Tunis and Naples and Rome. But if this game goes on long enough, absolutely, there's always a possibility to solo until things lock up. 2 game years ago, we had no sense that Conrad and Maxime were going to be fighting each other. These things happen, and you want to put yourself in position to take advantage of it wherever you can. So I applaud that play style.
And I purposefully asked you about the play style because you and I are much older than Corey, and she can talk about memeing, because I think his online name is Captain Meme. Is that is he an internet star? I think.
I don't know. No. I have no idea.
No. Well, apparently he had a Reddit post today that got pulled. So to the moderators of the board gamers Reddit group, shame on you for pulling it. Shame on you. So
I want to say there is a fun commentary in the chat about Marcus. Instead of being a soloist, he's a nice, Tanya.
That's why we have the gallery, not the peanut gallery, the gallery. So we'll bring him back in. Well, let's see what damage he can do if there's a chance for his solo. He's in Bohemia. Maybe gets to Munich this turn. Does not. Has a force on it though. Yeah.
This is awesome. I just want to flag this. You've got Turkey helping France. You've got England helping Russia. Just in the center of the board. That's fantastic.
Interesting flip.
So the stagnation, even though he does. Oh no, that's 07. So this is 08. So we want to set our count. The stagnation cost Conrad potentially tied board top now, although there's punishment on tied board top. So there's probably still some play left. What with the repairing of alliances, you think this calls it a game?
No, we should not. this game should keep going for some time.
Yeah,
You know,
for
Conrad's position is actually not bad right now, right? He's got a friend in Russia who he just helped into Silesia. He just put himself into Ruhr, which is going to give him advantage on Munich come this fall. In the meantime, he has Norway whenever he wants Norway. So Conrad, at this point, from what I see, really has a great opportunity to top the board. You know, and at some point, Marcus is going to push forward in the Med. He is probably just waiting his time to get France out of there. Go, run away, France, run away. Because now France is protecting 3 centers, Tunis, Naples, and Rome, with 1 fleet in the Ionian.
Yeah, do you see, Corey? I was just going to say,
Yeah.
AT seems to be on the same page, but at one point does centers become more important?
Right now, just looking at this board, I think Conrad and Nicholas have a better position and better chance of being successful than Maxim and Marcus do, just because Ben's come back. Ben can choose in a lot of ways where things are going to go in the center, and that could easily flip who's the dominant pair, so to speak. And so when I'm looking at this, it's like with Marcus, I really wish when he had stabbed Russia and Italy that he'd taken more dots. You know, if he had gotten a couple more builds onto the board and kind of knocked Ben down a little bit more, then he wouldn't have this giant game changer sitting in the middle of what I was thinking was going to be his territory. Now he has to negotiate with Ben. Now he has to think about, is Ben going to tell me the truth or whatever, because of how things have been going. And because Ben is there, I think that really decreases Maximum and Marcus's opportunity to kind of win.
And we
particular fight.
Thank players, viewers like Jay from coming here. It's just a testament to what Marcus has done, both on the board and off. So,
you know, Ben has a real opportunity here with Nicola. If they decide to work together, they can drive Marcus back out of Sevastopol, out of Romania, out of Bulgaria. Ultimately speaking, you know, if Marcus can't defend both Romania and Sevastopol this turn, so they can guarantee one from him. So, you know, if I'm Ben and Nicola, I'm sure they're talking about that and thinking through what they might be doing here.
Even though there was some pressure on Silesia, you think they patch it up because it was only a spring there, and Nicola can go to him and say, "Look, we can make this work."
Ben and Nicola haven't fought. You know, they don't have a damaged relationship in this game. No. You know, Nicola's been doing his thing, Ben's been doing his thing. So there's no history there that's going to indicate that they can't work together. Now they may or may not, but you know, that opportunity is still there.
Okay. And nope, the alliances hold. So there's really nothing in the southeast. So who wants to go with the west? A lot of red there too.
It's just Munich.
Yeah. I will say I'm a little bit disappointed that I think this is like 2 years now, maybe just a year and a half, where Marcus has done this self bounce. Maybe it's only been a year total, instead of like pushing through. Like that's what could help him, is if he told France, "Hey, I don't really want to fight you, but I want you out of Ionian so that I can do something." I think that would be more interesting than just letting those 3 fleets sit there.
Well, does Maxime say to him, "Look, if you're in Ionian, then Conrad's coming through and getting everything"?
I mean, maybe, but at this point, he can't stop him, right? And if Marcus and Maxim are going to work together, then Marcus needs more leverage. Where else is he going to get it? If you're going to have those fleets, use them.
Yeah, if Marcus wants to top this board, he's got to make a move now, and he doesn't have to do it against Austria. He needs to go to the Ionian Sea. He can totally do that. It can't be stopped. Look at, you know, like I said before, France is defending 3 dots now from Piedmont. That's not defending anything, and the Ionian Sea. You know, yeah, he could retreat to Naples, but then all it just takes is a little bit of working together with Austria, and you guys are carving up Italy. So at some point he's got to do that. Now he might be waiting until Maxime says, whatever, I'm pulling the Ionian Sea, go take my dots, top this board to punish Conrad. And that would be smart play. It's
only smart play if Ben doesn't use that time that it takes to get to that point to his advantage. And I think it's more likely that Ben uses that time to his advantage to getting more dots than.
Yeah, Ben's going to get Venice.
Yeah,
he's going there to take Venice.
It seems like a slowdown from Marcus, from my perspective, for Marcus to not have already been out. That self bounce doesn't seem necessary anymore.
Yeah, and if you knock him out in the fall, he can only guard one or the other. Can't guard both Tunis and Naples.
Right.
It's 50-50.
And protect the Mid-Atlantic at the same time, because you could retreat to the Tyrrhenian Sea and use West and Tyrrhenian Sea to protect Naples and Tunis.
Yeah.
But then, and maybe he's thinking that because he moved Leon to Spain, which still gives him 3 on the Mid-Atlantic. So, he could be thinking that.
Yeah. All right. So, the Italian fleet there, fairly useless for the tactical part of the game, but diplomatically we'll see it. I don't know the scoring system, but we'll see what they do with it. And nope. Still there. So he won a diplomatic battle. A lot of red, a lot of support, a lot of nothing. Anything useful?
Well, I think we see, that some of these alliances are kind of hardened to some degree. I'm a little surprised that Ben didn't take Venice. If you support yourself Trieste to Venice from Tyrolia, the fleet goes away, and then you can walk to Rome the next season and really reestablish yourself in this game. You don't really care that much about France. That's not your problem. Conrad's likely to top this board anyway because he's got Norway in the bag behind the line, which he can get whenever he wants it. So why not increase your score? And maybe he'll do that next year in 1910.
Yeah, because, for Conrad, all right, Norway and St. Pete are guaranteed in the long run. He's picking up Munich now, so that's 10. Norway, St. Pete, 12. Brest, Paris, 14. Portugal, Spain, 16.
Yeah, 17 for Marseille. Ultimately, he's not going to push that far because Nicolas is not just going to let him take St. Petersburg. Nicolas holding an integral part of the line. So the arrangement on that has to be like, if you need those dots to top the board, you go take those.
Yeah. But if Conrad's looking, like you mentioned earlier, about getting that big number to start, a 17 center, which is nearly all but guaranteed, especially maybe that's why I'm saying if with Marcus Maxime is saying, look, if you take Ionian, Conrad's at 17, and there's nothing anyone could do to stop it. And that's how he hasn't gone there.
Yeah, there's there are a lot of comments talking about saying, oh, well, people think they're setting up for a draw and whatnot. And I would be really disappointed if this game drew at this particular point. There looks to be play on this board for me.
So the only build is England, who gets another army because already has enough fleets around there. Oops, wrong button. So in spring 10, Corey is disappointed.
Yeah. I don't know why. Great game, guys. Good job. I'm not on the board, right? I'm not hearing the conversations. I have no idea how exhausted everyone is, but I don't see why Marcus draws. I don't see why Ben draws. Jackson, I can see why he might be interested in a draw at this particular point, but I don't think this game was done as far as play goes.
I think that the person who ought to vote this draw down is Ben. Mm-hmm. I want Venice at this point, and then I can get Rome, and I can be putting a fleet down, and there's nothing that Turkey can do about it, and there's nothing that France can do about it, and I don't really care that England gets Portugal and Spain because I'm going to make a bet to myself that. These guys aren't going to let Conrad solo because then they're going to get 0 points, and I can increase my score at the expense of everyone else's. So, if I'm Ben, I want to keep playing a little bit here.
Absolutely.
Well, that's because I'm trying to get the link to the scoring system. The big difference between 4 and 6 for him, like you mentioned, taking Venice, taking Rome.
Yeah.
Again, that shakes it up. So.
And he could even cut a deal with Turkey. It's like, hey, I'll take Venice and Rome. You take Naples and Tunis. They both increase their standing here at the expense of France. There's no real downside to that because once you get to Tunis in the Tyrrhenian Sea, you hold Tunis. It's very unlikely that Conrad is going to solo that board. Like Conrad needs, St. Petersburg, which he can get. He needs Munich. He needs Tunis and Marseille to get to the 18. If you're holding Tunis, you've stopped it. it's hard for him to get Marseille from the north instead of the south. So you probably have advantage on Marseille. So you probably stop Conrad at 16. It's still a big score, but are you increasing your score? While Conrad's getting a good score, that's fine. You can put him in a space where he's going to make the top board, but you enhance your likelihood of making the top board by increasing your score vis-a-vis the other players.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And I think we have, oh, look at this. Brian Pravel's on mute when he comes back. He's so rusty that we haven't seen him in a while.
You got it. Hey,
we got some inside information.
I do. I've actually got a special guest. Kevin, I think we're going to give you a break momentarily, and we are going to bring back on, or welcome to the stream, Mr. Conrad. Thank you so much. Congratulations on winning the first ever DBNI tournament game. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks.
So I think we'll
Sorry to disappoint Corey, by the way.
I think we'll start there. Conrad, why don't you just talk to us a little bit about how did you feel winning this game, and why did you make that decision?
So I don't think I played a particularly elegant game. I made lots of mistakes. The 3 convoy errors. One of them was intentional. Two of them were unintentional. I got outmaneuvered by Maxime in Picardy because I needed to get Picardy to cut Brest to guarantee Mid-Atlantic, which would have given me that big score. So once I saw I wasn't going to get Mid-Atlantic, I just thought as long as I'm board top, I don't really care. And the other players were haggling and hassling, and I don't think they could work out something between themselves other than their static center counts.
Well, good game. I thought you did very well. I liked watching your play throughout.
Conrad, tell me about Nicola and the stab that Marcus made where he ate on the line. What happened after that turn?
I mean, that turn was so funny. He came to me and Maxime, we were in the room together. He's like, guys, I think I'm going to stab. And we're like, who? And he's like, I think I'm going to stab all of them. And I said, that is a terrible idea. Being honest, that is a terrible idea. Choose 1 or 2. Don't stab all of them. And Maxime was like, yeah, stab Italy. And I was like, no, stab Nikolai. And then he just went and stabbed all of them. And Nikolai was understandably pissed off. Yeah. But at that point, as you described, Doug, in the commentary, right? Nikolai is going to try to play south, punish Marcus, so I didn't need to take anything. At that point, everything was negotiated with Nicola.
So Conrad, one of the main storylines to me coming through this game was the Leviathan between you and Maxime. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that relationship was like, and ultimately, how did you make the decision to go ahead and pull out that win, make the stab for the win?
Well, I actually had a really good vibe from both Germany and France. So John Anderson was Germany and Maxime was France. I thought I could work with either one of them. It sort of came down to an arbitrary decision, a little bit driven by Nicola wanting to work against Germany. And I've watched Maxime play, so I knew he was an alliance player, and I felt I'm generally not super aggressive. I'm pleased to have a top board. I haven't soloed in years. So once we got going, it was easy. It was tactical. We did have a challenge though, because Maxime is very quiet and his microphone doesn't really pick up his voice all the time. So every 2-3 minute conversation I was having really was taking 5 or 6 minutes. So I didn't have a lot of other time to work on other relationships. But once I thought I could guarantee Mid-Atlantic, I went for it because I'm England. There's no Russian fleets left. There's not even an army in St. Petersburg. As soon as you think you can guarantee Mid-Atlantic, you go for it. I was wrong, but I went for it.
Nothing wrong with that. It got you the board top, Conrad.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. I got very worried when Italy threw his centers to Maxim that it was going to be impossible to stop him. So.
Yeah, I thought he had a chance to run away with it, and I thought that if you didn't make that move, you might very well be in a position where you are getting French fleets wrapping up from the south as he builds, right? So I thought you either needed to take something or balance out those builds. Did he ever offer you anything like, hey, why don't you take Belgium? I'm going to get 2 here, so we're both growing?
Yeah, I mean, so he's a great alliance player. I said, because throughout the whole relationship, we would put everything on the table that we were concerned about. So like my first convoy to Holland was an intentional misorder because he said, I'm not comfortable with that. And I was like, well, I told Nikolai I would do that. And, I messed it up on purpose. Somebody pointed out that starts a cascade of messing up because your mind gets, how you do the convoy gets wrong in your head. But yeah, I said, look, you're going to be getting these centers. What are we going to do about it? He's like, well, why don't you take Berlin and Belgium and we'll keep even. And then we'll look for, he had a long-term vision. We're going to park, the fleets in London and North Sea, and I'm going to have Brest and Mid-Atlantic, and we're going to do support attacks in the English Channel. Like he had that all planned out and thought through. It just differed from my long-term vision a little bit.
Well, Conrad, congratulations on that win. This puts you right now in the driver's seat going into the to the tournament. So do you have any strategies for the next round? And how are you feeling about your chances right now for qualifying for that top board?
I usually play the tournament, but I've been busy at work, so I haven't really looked into how it's scored or how it goes ahead. So I don't actually have a strategy yet. I will be working on something tomorrow. I will be reading the rules tomorrow. But I think it should be okay, right? There's going to be 8 boards.
Topping the board helps.
Yeah, it helps, of course.
Just a little.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, Conrad, thank you so much for joining us. And Doug, Corey, Kevin, thanks for great coverage. And I'm going to leave you back to it.
Kevin,
you're on mute.
Thank you. Sorry about that. All right. So, yeah, with only 8 boards and topping one of them with the board topping bonus, he's in a great position. Although, a little disingenuous for Brian to say you're in the driver's seat after only seeing one result and there, but we'll maybe he's just doing it for the hype. Brian's better at hype than I am. So let's get back to the action. So congrats to Conrad. Now back to Larry Peary. So we left this game a little earlier than we did. Made it through 4 years on board 1. Now board 2, we're in the winter. Trying to remember, I should have taken some better notes, but EG versus a resurging and under a resurging Turkey from the opening misorder, but Doug liked Sergei's position. So rather than reviewing everything, let's just get into the 1904 orders. I think we had Corey in the West last time, and we'll do the switcheroo this time. So Corey, why don't we we'll put Doug in the West. The West, again, is a little cleaner than the East. So, Doug, start us out in the West.
You've got just the absolute rolling English fleet maneuver. He, pops into Portugal. He gets another into the Mid-Atlantic Ocean. It was really in great shape. And, pretty interesting, nice defense here by Alessandro. Don't know if it was on purpose or that's what the goal was, but blew up the German army in Burgundy. That's a big deal, or could be a big deal going forward. So that's kind of the West. And at the same time, why is the Western Med going to the Tyrrhenian Sea? What's happening there?
Yeah, I'm not sure. There's a lot of holds here in the West, or I'm sorry, in the East. I am surprised to see Western Med and Tyrrhenian Sea. I am quite sure Brad was not planning for that, which is unfortunate because he's got a push coming for him. Sergei is coming down, is taking Bud. Fantastic push down as far as I'm concerned. A little bit more timid from Hunter than I was expecting, but at least Smyrna is out into the eastern east. Yeah, I hope it's not going to turn into a game of holds. down here with Italy and Turkey, but I could definitely see Sergey making some serious moves this year.
Yeah, I can only imagine with guaranteeing Eastern Med. You can't take Ionian at this point this year, but maybe in the fall. So a little slow playing for tactics. Anything with Russia? I know walking into Budapest, getting there, but no. I think the thought was for the build in Warsaw, maybe push to Prussia and Silesia, but nope, heading south to finish up business there. So
yep, and he's in Tyrolia now, so good for him.
Yeah. And then
hard to hate that. Hard to hate that.
No, yeah. So cleaner on that. Portugal, Spain, the West is a lot of black arrows. Doug, let's stay in the West first on this one, because there's finally some movement. Not for a good spot for Alessandro, but finally some movement.
Russ Dennis gets the applause. Nicely done. He just stabbed Germany for 2 while he's simultaneously taking Spain. So England's going up 3 right now. He took Holland, he took Denmark, he took Spain. Yes, the German gets into Brest. Chaos is good for you over there as England. Lots of intermixed units. This is really lovely. And now Alessandro goes back to Gulf of Leon. I don't know why he went there in the first place. He could have held Spain if he had not done that. But this is nice play by Russ, really putting your foot on the throat of this game.
Oh, yeah. And in the East, Sergey is taking advantage of it. He is now going to be in Budapest, Venice. He's in Tyrolia. He's in Silesia. Excellent play from him. Really liking that. And Hunter has taken Ionian with no resistance whatsoever. It looks like Brad is trying to help Natty staying around for a little bit, probably just to put a nice barrier of red dots there between him and Sergey. But I don't know how effective realistically that's going to be. I mean, if I'm Sergey, I'm talking to Hunter, but kind of with Hunter as junior partner.
Any worry about trading Greece for Ionian, or is that you knew it was going to happen? You might as well not knew it was going to happen, but no big loss there.
I mean, if I'm Hunter, I would have expected some resistance, right? So if he loses Greece, but he's in Ionian and Italy's having to pull units because Sergey is in Budapest and Sergey's now in Venice, I don't know if I care, especially not if you're Sergey's junior partner, right? Like, you're still helpful. You still have fleets down there. Sergey's going to make sure that you kind of get some builds back if needed.
It's interesting because Natty's now up to 3 but can't build. So basically just takes a center away from Hunter for a season. And that could prove potentially decisive if Sergey decides to stab Hunter, which I kind of think he ought to at this point. There's no real reason not to.
I would agree to some extent with that, other than maybe you think keeping Hunter's 3 fleets focused on something in the Med is more important. But there's also no need for him to attack Hunter right now, I guess, is my perspective on it, especially if he's going to keep Hunter relatively small. So a relatively small partner.
Yeah.
He can go down there whenever he wants.
So to the builds, yeah, it was 4. I know you gave him 3, but Russ actually hadn't picked up Portugal yet. Picked up 2 German and 2 French. Yeah, France goes down 3. The tactical, the moving of Lyon. Gascony walks out. Maybe Alessandro knows it's coming, and maybe by moving German away from home, is it a behind-the-scenes stab? Kind of can't get your dots, but I can move you out of position. So
it's not good for powers that are sort of like southern flank of the board. You've got -1 Turkey, -2 Italy, -3 France. Ugh. Look at the power shift to the north. The feature of adding like who's building is really interesting, and it kind of maybe tells me that Russ and Sergey are working together because they are doing some fun stuff. And they both are poised to grow in Germany now and get, pretty strong results for both of them. It's kind of a little bit of a race, maybe.
Yeah, I would agree with that now that I'm looking at where everything is, and they've got the benefit of not having their units all that tangled up. So they're not two partners that are trying to work around each other in the same small space. They can kind of just go down. So maybe you're right. Maybe he goes for hunter catcher now.
And he doesn't. So goes to the middle of the board, like you mentioned about possibly picking up those from Germany. France. What do we think about Alessandro's pulls?
Well, he's basically telling England, yeah, keep me around and I'll, use my Southern stuff to your benefit. Otherwise, there's no reason to do that. It could be to give Germany a dot for free in Paris too. But at this point, you're just trying to be relevant.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, guys. Does it look like Natty waved a bill?
Oh shoot, I'll go back to the map.
Natty couldn't build. He didn't have a home center open, I think.
Oh, it wasn't a home center.
That's right. Yep, you mentioned that during commentary. All right. So, but speaking of Alessandro, so his play style is versatile, and he's learning that with the direct attack and the kind of rearrangement after the first one. He's an online player, or an extended. I keep saying online. We're all online now. Extended deadline player, which Russ and Sergey, I believe, both are as well. So interesting to know maybe if some of those backgrounds come in, if people had long Nexus deadlines or long games where there's maybe some grudges there. I mean, I know in the in-person hobby there you have rivals, and so maybe that came into it as well. So it'll be interesting to see what his negotiation style is. Do you think, Corey, that it is like what Doug said, and look, England, I'll work for you, because the moving away and letting Germany in, it was like, all right, if I have to be mad at one of the two, maybe I'm more mad at Germany.
Maybe it could be just, they don't have a lot of experience playing with each other, or plus the change in format, like how you normally play. It could have just been, not great communication. I think that's something we sometimes forget about, even with the virtual format and it just being voice for the most part, is that doesn't mean that your communication is 100% effective every time that you're having a touch point with someone.
Yeah.
And I think it's pretty easy, especially in a high stakes game or when you're playing with someone new or many people who are new, that you just kind of slip a little bit sometimes.
Look at that. We've got some promotion of an interview on the Diplomats. I'm not familiar with their link. Maybe someone could put a link in the chat. Oops. And oops. We'll find out what the other chat goes. So, all right. So back to the map. I do want to say, with if your hobby is cinema, you got to get a favorite movie, comment. Maybe
or a
maybe
genre.
Get an up there player profile by the second game. So
this is going to be an exciting turn. I'm like this many builds and disbands and like big shifts, like this is not something I really would have expected for this game. So this is fun. This one's got a lot of tension. Let's see what happens.
I know the build-up going into it was we thought the heavy hitters were on board one, but the dynamic game here. So wow, there's a lot of black arrows in the north. I think instead of going east and west, maybe north and south. Doug, do you want to do the north?
Okay, so you seem to have the English and the Russians definitely still working together. Support into Livonia, supports into Kiel. Interesting, Germany held in Brest. So it looks like France is thrown in to try and work with Germany a little bit to protect against England. But look, we've got a pretty strong ER alliance, which is fun. They're not frequent, but they can be very powerful when they work together. And they are going to carve up Germany at this point right here.
Yeah, absolutely. In the east, Hunter's getting Greece. I can't quite tell, but it looks like maybe Natty was thinking that Ionian was going to convoy Greece to Tunis, which didn't make it. I don't know what Ionian is doing. I don't know if he's supporting Naples into Tyrrhenian or the other way around. Can you click on that?
It looks like Ionian is moving in because the dark line is coming from Ionian.
Got it. So interesting that he's in Tyrrhenian Sea. I think this makes sense. I think this is a good play for him, particularly if he doesn't want to just be a very attractive target for Sergei to say, oh, I have all these armies. After I'm done with Austria, let me come get you.
Yeah. And
so
maybe
good for him.
maybe the lie about Greece or the convoy was retribution for, oh, you took my center. Oh, you want some help? Oh, sure, I'll give it to you. Yeah.
I would be amazed if Hunter had offered that, if he ever was actually going to fulfill it.
Yeah.
Like, I bet it was just to get Natty to believe that he was going to help him and he wasn't going to go down or whatever, or as like a peace offering for taking Greece. But if I'm with Hunter, I'm probably not making any deals with Natty or Brad to help them out.
No, for certain. So as we go into the fall, it's kind of a setup turn. England already has one off of Germany. Likely Russia does the same. Do we like Russ's seat better than Sergei's at this point? Or Doug, are you still high on what Russia could do both in the north and the south?
I think that Sergei's got a real opportunity. I think that Russ made a fantastic stab there and really put himself into the driver's seat. But look, Sergei is sitting in Romania and can drop to the Black Sea at any point. He's going to take Berlin right now, and then he could build in the south and then just roll into Hunter, who is like very overextended. So really, if I am Sergei at this point, my goal is to make sure that Hunter doesn't build so that I can go clobber him. So I'm probably going to work to help Austria get into Bulgaria or wherever, Greece potentially.
And no surprise that how he got here was by dominating as England. So maybe that's why he put as many on England as he did. I don't know the number, but it was clearly his number one pick. So it's a nice result, or at least a nice start to the game. Although apparently he is trustworthy until 1908. So
I don't know that that's accurate.
I want to see. Maybe we should have. The producer behind the scenes should have given me this one in 1908, and we could have assessed it better. Maybe his honesty will improve in the next 3 seasons. So,
well, he just stabbed Germany pretty viciously. I mean, I think we can assess his trustworthiness, at least vis-a-vis Germany at this point.
Maybe he didn't lie. Yeah, maybe he didn't lie about it. Look, you
it's
can't
only
tell me. All right. Well, we'll see how it plays out for him, and yeah, definitely the trustworthiness doesn't follow through because Sergei did not seem to get the follow on as expected. So let's do north. Let's start in the south this time. There's there's no red in the south. Corey, what do we think?
No, we have Natty doing, I think, pretty much all he can to be defensive at this point. Same goes for Brad, but largely it looks like it's unsuccessful. He's going to take that hit of losing Tunis, which isn't really a surprise with Hunter and Tyrrhenian Sea. Hunter's in a pretty good spot, so he's going to get 2 builds. He definitely needs that. I don't think that Sergei didn't prevent it, so he's going to have to deal with quite a bit stronger Turkey. And he's making his play for some German dots. I think it's going well for him, going well for Russ as well. That's going into your territory. Never mind.
Well, Russ stopped Russia from taking Berlin, but I kind of wonder at what cost. Is Russ just going to simply then, if Sergei starts fighting with England, is Russ not going to, or is Tommy not going to take Kiel back? I would be taking Kiel back. Why not? So, I'm not sure the rationale behind this. It could be really good, but it's definitely risky. Russ
has pretty much cemented his attack, though, right? Yorkshire is now in Norway. Denmark is in Baltic.
Yeah, it's still slow to take St. Petersburg. Is it worth it to poke Russia at this point to go get St. Petersburg at some arbitrary date, which you can always go do later? You can just veto the draw to go get it. I would rather be applying my force here to try and stop, to try and get German dots and to, get around the Horn.
I wonder if it's more helpful to prevent, from Russ's mind, northern builds from Sergei. Like, maybe now is the time, if he's trying to prevent a massive buildup, that it's going to go against him in Scandinavia.
Well, we'll see. We've got 2, so Russ picks up another 2, or must have a rebuild, he had 4 last time, so he picked up 1 and 1 in the bank. A big gap, so 11 to 8 right now. No adjustment for Sergei. Hunter in the corner, though, picks up 2, but is obviously in the corner. It's going to take a long time to get out and maybe even get that next build. So we'll see where we're at. 2 armies. So yeah, the forces are out for England, 2 fleets for Turkey, and removing of armies in the middle. So all right. So the board as is. If you're Russ here, you see him going towards Russia. Any reason to? I don't want to say any reason to change. You guys got to kind of both win in that. I mean, with the 2 armies, one north and one south.
There's maybe you could also go to Denmark, and you could go to you can't hold Kiel right now. So the question is like, are you going to retreat that? What are you thinking? You could also like talk with Sergei and say like, okay, I'll give you Berlin now. Maybe you can cut a deal. It depends on what you're really thinking through here. I would actually really put a premium on this point of getting into the mid-Atlantic ultimately, not necessarily this instant, but you want to get Brest. So maybe you're convoying to Picardy, supported by Belgium, for example. You could also drop down to Burgundy. There's stuff to do here is England that's not like focused on Russia. And that's actually, I think, way more important at this point in the game is Russia. That's always going to be there. It's not going anywhere. But if Germany and France work with Russia, all that stuff in the center of the board that you're spread out for can disappear. So I really got to pay a premium on like focusing on that right now.
Is it a solo watch, Corey, or is it like what Doug said? You got to play it the right way.
I mean, he definitely has to play it the right way, but this is a time unlimited game, so I don't know why he wouldn't have the opportunity to at least try for a solo. I think at this point, Sergei and Hunter need to be having a conversation with themselves about where do they want to draw the line, so to speak, for points to the extent that they can.
Yeah.
But I don't know, if I'm Hunter, maybe at this point it's just get as many points as you can and try and get to some line where you could stop Russ from actually getting 18. So build as quickly as possible to get there.
I don't think Russ has really got much of an 18 shot here. Let's be like, dude, you need 7 more, but he can't hold Kiel if Russia doesn't want him to. He doesn't have a play on Brest yet. His southern fleets are pinned in place by Lyon and Marseille. He's got a convoy over to get there. If they work at all in concert and Hunter just plays competently around Tunis, they've got him stopped right now already.
Yeah. All right. So no likely solo threat. Anyone else quickly likely to tap the board, or is this a Russ finishing it off?
I think that Sergei can still make a play, and I would not count out Hunter. There's a lot of access to dots where he is that are held by others. He could very easily get 3 dots, putting himself up to 9, and then if something happens with Sergei in the north, you could see some kind of stab. So I would not count out Sergei and Hunter at this point. Obviously, Russ is in the driver's seat.
Yeah, that sounds good. All right, we'll see how it plays. Oh, well, there's possibly the turn. Corey, let's start in the south. Russia may be looking at things differently.
Well, Hunter is certainly moving out to get some dots. It's exactly what I would do if I was him. Probably most of us would do the same thing. Sergei seems to be a little bit defensive, maybe more so than we would have liked, but I think that opens up, play for Russ. And Hunter pushes further into the Med with Italian support, which I think is the right choice if you're Brad, because you can't really prevent it. And if you can make Hunter think that you're useful enough to keep around for fighting in the boot, then maybe that'll keep him holding on to his dots for a little bit longer.
Yeah, and the Russian fleet is now gone, so total freedom for Russ up north, right?
Yeah,
total freedom, and he threw in and is working with Germany here. They support each other. Well, I mean, Germany holds, but England supports him in place, puts himself in position to take St. Petersburg. Great. Also got into the Mid-Atlantic, which was pretty crucial for the long term. He may have kind of deal. It's like I'm topping this board. I'm going to 12 right now. I'll take Paris. It'll get me to 13. I'm happy to leave you at 3, something like that. But we'll see how it plays out. It could also be that Tommy goes for Paris here because there's no real reason to keep France around. So I'll be watching that. But it looks like Russ did what he needed to do to get Tommy on board to stick with him or to flip back to him and give him really I don't see how he doesn't get a board top now.
So it's Sergey with the big change here. Very professional. He and Conrad have the professional look going so far. Likes to start with 2 main allies and 5 secondary allies. So if there's an 8-player variant, maybe, or you got to work with yourself. So I'll just blame that on Zach's editing. I'm sure that Sergey didn't say that, and Zach just doesn't know how to count. So.
Well, maybe the stat is that one of his main allies is really a secondary ally, and they just
there you go. And then as a Tottenham Hotspur supporter, I'm happy that the Liverpool fans got their first title in many, many years. But sorry, again, all these player profiles, they're not my favorites. So they'll probably get better as I'm off the screen later on. So
maybe it's all a stab on you, Kevin.
Could be. That's why that's why they set me up for today. So anyway, so all right. So to the fall and the taking of Ankh, but a little not sure what else is going on with Russia's in the north and the south again. All right, so I'm flipping things back up because I can. Let's do the east. Corey, what do you see?
Well, yeah, like you said, Black walked into Ankh. Nothing Hunter could do about it. It'll be a nice little build for Sergey. And then again, Hunter's continuing to push forward. I don't know what else you'd do at this particular point. Otherwise, looks kind of normal to me. Nothing super surprising given where this game has been going.
But Doug, no push forward from England.
Yeah, why did you stab your ally and move all those units to St. Petersburg? It's like probably like 8 units in movement to not take St. Petersburg and stand by while Russia takes Ankara. I don't understand this. I'm confused. You could have just given Russia Berlin, or made a trade somewhere. So, maybe they're making an arrangement on like how they see this board ending. And they're calculating scores so that people have like reasonable results. But I mean, even in that scenario, if I'm Russ, I kind of am going to basically say to everybody, well, St. Petersburg and Brest are going to be mine. I'm going to get to 13. So everyone should just be ready for me to be at 13.
And a little back note on that is there was a draw proposal in spring 1906 that failed. So clearly you could see the progression moving towards a more final result, but maybe kind of like the last game. Whereas I don't think Conrad, based on the interview, slowed down. He just stalled based on, I think, a couple of tactical things that didn't go in his favor. Here, it looks like Rust has kind of taken his foot off the accelerator.
Yeah, and it could cost him. France and Turkey working together could potentially take Spain. He needs another unit down there, and the only place to get that unit is to take another dot and build, and he didn't. So what he really needs is a fleet in Portugal with another fleet in the Mid-Atlantic. He doesn't have it.
And the winner, and we didn't maybe foreshadow it, but Sergey picks up 2, picks up Ankh, picks up Venice. So is it dynamic now? Maybe there's a chance. Do you build? I mean, do you get that northern fleet back now? I mean, we said he was comfortable. No, just focus south.
No, you can't. You still can't hold the north. Using those 2 builds to go take the north is silly. Like, build in Sevastopol, drop to Armenia, take Turkey out. They're like, that's what you need to be doing right here. You could basically just, hey, dude, put a fleet in St. Petersburg, it's yours. Like that's where you are at this point in the game. You want to take those builds and you want to deploy them where they can do things for you and help you grow. So no, don't build in St. Petersburg.
Corey, as we go in, what does Turkey pull?
I mean, I'd probably pull Aegean right now. He's got three fleets that are already up there. The Aegean fleet isn't as helpful as they are, and I think he needs his 2 armies.
Yeah, so we pulled Tunis. So the dynamic going into 1907 is Russ continues to push. Turkey goes back to fight at home. Tommy Anderson lives diplomatically. I mean, I don't think he's actually moved a unit in 3 or 4 years. How does Tommy clinking his glasses there? Is that a German beer in his hand? I think too. So appropriate for where he's at. Tommy, textbook Anderson. So he's not Tombstone anymore. Now he's textbook. But really, it's a little. We haven't talked obviously because his position's been the same, but it's been the same. There's been no forward attack on him. Has he won over allies? He's not even really helping anyone move forward. How's he avoid the final punch?
Because he's charming.
Yeah.
For the win.
The importance of being a small power is that you are helpful and useful in some capacity. So if he wants to be helpful, like he needs to move Brest to Gascony or something like that to help England. Like that's what I would be asking if I was Russ. To stick around like in Berlin and Munich is a little easier because there may be an interest by both England and Russia to keep Germany in place. So maybe those just kind of sit there. They both might be okay with that.
Yeah.
Although I have to say at some point, there's no real percentage for Russ not to take Berlin and Brest. He just may not do it right now. So if Tommy wants to continue, he needs to make himself relevant and useful.
Corey, any change to the question from last time? If not Russ, then who?
I don't know. I mean, I think Sergei still has plenty of opportunity to build, plenty of opportunity to take dots. It'll be interesting to see if the game actually gets to that point, though.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows how many people are actually vetoing the draw? Maybe Russ is just saying, let me get the 2 more that I feel I'm entitled, and then I'll call it or something like that. And other folks are willing to just be like, wherever it lands at that point is fine.
Well, before we get to the spring reveal, there was another failed draw vote, both in fall of 1906 and in spring 1907. So before we got to see these, the board got to see these orders, another failed draw vote. So we see the moves. The board sees the moves as they are. Let's stick with East and West again. Let's stay in the West to start, Doug. And England finally makes a move.
The most important thing is that Brest went to Gascony. I highlighted that before about what Tommy needed to do to stay relevant. That is what he needs to do to stay relevant. It doesn't matter because France isn't moving, but still, that's what you need to do. Otherwise, Russ can take Brest right now. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. Instead, maybe he takes Paris because Tommy's making himself useful. So I like what Russ did here. I like what Tommy did here. Alessandro, you're just doing what you can with what you got. So I appreciate that. And then in the North, in the joint area, I'll hand it over for you, Corey. You can talk about the triumphant.
Well, obviously, Russ has walked into St. P. That couldn't be stopped, so it's not a surprise there. I do like that we're seeing Sergei put some units on the line. I hope that he's going to make a play for Tommy's remaining dots. Sorry, Tommy. Regardless of how that actually turns out. And Hunter's playing a little bit defensively again. I am interested in the conversation where Brad gave a support order for a unit that didn't go there. So maybe that was just an ineffectual offer.
But if it's going to be a grind onto the line onto Tommy, we get back to where we were about 2 years ago, I think. And there's another, as we go into the fall here, another draw vote was taken and it failed again. So they will make their way through to see these orders, which obviously the continuation of Russia moving south and England's progression. Rather than getting into the specific, any highlighted moves.
I like this. I like what Tommy and Russ just did. They just took Marseille. They get into Lyon with Turkish support. France is out of the game, and Russ couldn't get those built, so he gave it to Tommy, who can't build. This is really smart by Russ. So if you start counting right now, if you're Russ, okay, which you should be doing, you've got a scenario here where you could get to 16 to 18 dots. And, you know, people need to pay attention to that right now, and I'm not sure that they are.
Yeah.
That may come back to cost them. We'll see. All right, so we go into the fall. We had the failed draw vote, so it could be two. It could be. I mean, it could have been Russia at first, thinking, "Oh man, I've got a chance." Like Corey, I think you mentioned, "Oh, let's go, clean up Turkey." Well, now there's bigger problems on the board, because look at the jump. You see the blue line with my mouse is just straight upward. It looks like the GameStop stock before we were on I think on Cascadia's coverage. So Russ builds two more. Sadly, Tommy can't build the one that he was entitled to, and Turkey pulls another.
Yeah.
We won't even guess. Pulls another fleet forward. I mean, at this point,
that's the right pull. That's the right pull.
Yeah.
But more so that Russ has even less resistance than he already had to start out with.
So Russ is going to move Livonia to Moscow, supported by St. Petersburg, Baltic to Prussia. That puts him at 14. He can take Brest, 15. He's got a guarantee on Marseille, 16. Munich and Berlin are left. Like, he might solo this turn. Report. People don't pay attention on this board. I don't know what Sergei's doing in the south, and he just cost himself Moscow.
I'm not an attorney, but I know that in court sometimes you will just make baseless claims and arguments just to ramble on or distract or something. Well, there was a draw vote that failed in spring 1908, and there was a lunch break that failed in spring 1908. So someone is trying to get off the board here, and clearly there are voters there are players who don't want to see that. So
I mean, Hunter's going down, and I applaud him, like, making it painful on Russia. Like, this is what he has to do in this situation, but he's not guarding Tunis. I mean, this could be a solo this year.
Yeah, he's not preventing the 18.
Yeah. All right.
They may not be.
Oh.
With votes draw. Yeah. Here's your play for maybe at this turn. We'll see. What do we think? Anything in the East relevant enough other than just talking about what Russ is doing the rest of the game?
I mean, Hunter's now officially walked away from Tunis. So whenever Russ decides he wants it, he's going to be able to get it.
And, well, Naples is now free. So, but Doug, anything?
Sergei did what he needed to do here, which is he moved to Warsaw and Sev. So now he's in a position where, he can potentially retake Moscow. He's got 3 armies on it. So that really realistically can't be stopped, which was absolutely what he needed to do in this situation, or this game was going to end. Russ is still going to get an enormous score out of this, and he has every incentive to drive this and force them to stop him, at his maximum point. Like, he really ought to do that.
All right. Yeah. And let's see. I don't see anything about a draw vote at this point. Obviously, with Senators knowing they're going to be moving, probably didn't even take one. But as a commenter said, Moscow, of course, retaken because it was going to be retaken. So, again, Corey, anything in the southeast useful?
Nah, they're just waiting to die at this point, I think. So at least what it looks like to me. The smaller powers are done.
Italy gets a build back, walks into Venice as Venice walks into Trieste. So the arm, might be the end for Natty, but a little more repositioning up north.
Berlin is going to fall because of the moves to Livonia. He can tap Prussia in the spring, and he can take Berlin. So that's good news if you are Russ and you're trying to maximize your score.
Yeah.
It also depends on what Tommy pulls, which, who knows. Also, I think it's really interesting. Take a look, Corey, at the Piedmont supported Rome to Venice.
Yes.
And then,
I saw that. I wonder if he's hoping, maybe Brad gets a build and can put another fleet down and can at least hold off Russ done long enough from Tunis to maybe make one of these draw votes successful. Though if I'm Russ, I don't know if I take it.
Right, but then you force Natty into a really difficult decision. Does he pull Tyrolia or Serbia? And that has bearing on what happens with Munich as well. So that
it does. That to me though, this particular poll looks entirely based off what your conversations have been. Like entirely based off your negotiations. Because Natty knows he's not coming back. Natty knows that it's done for him probably. So who is he more angry at for that happening?
And I know from the scoring system perspective, Natty won't lose a tremendous amount of points from going from 2-1, but it's huge from 1-0. So if his play is, look, I don't want to get soloed on, or we don't want a solo because it'll be hard to, impossible to catch a solo. Maybe all right, I'm fine. Let's board up the line and I can work together. I'm trying to just run the numbers on it as we go through, but so here are the builds. Yeah. So, and maybe it's agreed upon. Look, we got to support the line. We get there. So
I assume that build in Rome that they're going to work to secure Tunis. And if that's the case, then, Russ maybe made a mistake when he took Marseille when he did, instead of like dropping down to Tunis, because Marseille wasn't going anywhere. But that's, I got to I'm not trying to critique Russ there, because when you're at this point in the game, sometimes it's really difficult to keep everything, to negotiate and get a lot of units on. And of course, nobody really wants to talk to you when you're a solo threat. So you're also sitting there by yourself trying to work it through and figure out all the variables. So, it might have been more optimal to do it a different direction, but it's not really fair to critique that as like, oh, he screwed up. He's got 15 centers. He's doing something right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the difference on the score is only 4 points to go from 2-1 there for Natty. So take one for the team and survive to live another day. So, all right. And lastly, in perfect fashion, we'll get to maybe not even, I don't know if it ends here or not, but let me do the one. So since Hunter NMR'd to start, I'm going to not NMR by not showing his profile before we get to the end of the game. So it'll be I've played on a couple of boards with Hunter, and the play style is spot on there. Both have been fantastic alliance plays. One of the world championship was when he was contending to get on a top board. Still stuck it through to the end and got a good result, but maybe could have stabbed and gotten more. But I think that's on there. Corey, do you remember him from Weaselmoot?
I do. He actually has won a trophy that we're going to ship to him at some point. And I actually met him in Seattle for one of the tournaments that was out there. I'm totally blanking on the name right now. Doug, I think you were there as well.
Oh, are you thinking of the Seattle tournament, WAC?
Yes, WAC.
Yeah.
We were there. I met him there.
He is whack, so we'll go there. Apex Predator. I don't know where that comes from, if that is actually a translation to the name or not, but anything Zach comes up with on the countdown shows.
I don't know. With a name like Hunter Catcher, shouldn't it be more like The Witcher or something like that?
All right. There is play, so I wouldn't have stabbed him with the NMR, but just exactly like you mentioned about securing Tunis, they're working their way there. Anything of note, Corey, on? Let's do a little switch. We've had Doug in the West for a little bit. Anything of significance from England? We're getting more out of it.
I mean, I like that he's swinging his fleets down. I like to see that. Otherwise, just kind of butting up against the other units at the line. I like that Brad is in Turanian, and they're getting those fleets down there to meet him.
Yeah,
I don't know if I see 18 though at this point.
Yeah, Doug, Russia seems to have done the defense well enough up in the north.
Yeah, I mean they almost left it to the end, and they did leave it to the end. At this point, it may be that Russ doesn't care to get it because his solo opportunity is shot, and he knows that he's not going to get Tunis at this point. But he's going to hold his line. He does have Berlin in the bag, which gives him 16. And he should take that. And he positioned himself by going to Prussia to potentially do that. So he should absolutely take it and, maximize his score. There's no reason at this point, having stabbed as many times as he had, to be nice to Tommy. Sorry, Tommy, we love you, but he should take Berlin from you.
So based on taking Berlin, is there anything, Corey, that Russia would have to pull? I mean, one of those units in the south. Is there anything diplomatically that Russ can do on the other side? Can he go to the East? Seems to have patched it up, right? Is there anything Russ can do, or is it tactics at this point?
I don't think so. I think we're at the end of the game, and they're going to get into their final position and then call it. Okay.
All right. Well, let's see if we get there. They take Berlin. He does not take Berlin this time. So more of a shifting of units. What do you think, Corey? Is there a break in the line? I mean, but maybe not one versus the other in calling the analysis at this time. Is there any point that both of you see any cracks in the line?
I don't. I mean, I don't know how Doug feels, but it definitely just feels like getting into your draw position, for lack of a better term.
There was no reason not to have taken Berlin right now, but maybe he was like, well, I don't want to take the risk of something bad happening, so I'm gonna move my second fleet down. The problem right now is actually the fleet in Prussia is vulnerable to getting annihilated potentially. There's it's, if you're Russia at this point, actually what you're trying to think about is, I want to be in Livonia and I want to be in Prussia. That's how you say Berlin, but they probably don't really care about Berlin. The problem with that is, if you get into a situation where England has armies in Berlin, Prussia, Livonia, St. Petersburg, then they can tap Silesia from Prussia, and then they've got 4 on Munich, and that gets into 17. So tactically speaking, you really, at this point, you do not need to support Berlin. That is not something you want to do. Instead, what you want to be doing is moving Silesia to Prussia, supported by Warsaw. And then, maybe that's not optimal exactly like that, but you want to be taking Prussia. That's your goal. Maybe it's Warsaw supported by Silesia.
Yeah, and so that to Corey, to weigh the balance on maybe what Russ did this time is a gamble. Oh, they think I'm going to go for Berlin. Let me reshift some units to try and advance the line. And the same for what Doug was saying on the analysis. Maybe from the East trying to hold the line, you've gotten yourself into too defensive of a shell. You haven't thought about, okay, how do we force that line that Doug was talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a mistake from Russ's perspective. He does have the option. He does have the possibility of losing Prussia, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's making all that much of a difference right at this particular moment. Unless, yeah.
I'm just an advocate, generally speaking, of always make the right move, even though you may not need to. Leaving things till later tends to get yourself pinched in, right? So be aggressive when you're in a position to be aggressive. Don't be passive when you're trying to solo. And in this instance, I look at the position right now, there's still some guesses here. There's still some things that could happen. They're short a little bit in Italy itself. Can they break in? Maybe they dislodge Terency. I don't know yet, but you put yourself in position to solo, and that requires that you are doing your utmost to take Berlin right now. So they need to be taking Berlin, or I'm sorry, Russ needs to be taking Berlin.
Yeah. All right. Well,
he does.
Yeah. Spring 1910, he gets that in. Obviously, Berlin goes poof, but not a whole lot of other movement anywhere along the line. Got to Prussia, like you mentioned, of course, not supported in there, but still gets there. Anything?
Yeah. Now, if you're Russ, you push yourself out of Prussia to blow up the Russian army in Warsaw, and you go back the other direction because, and then you can open up Berlin and you shuffle Kiel over and you drop Denmark down. So you play another year or a season to then see if you can get another army into Prussia and put yourself into position to get Munich. You've got some guessing to do in the south. Maybe you give yourself a chance, but you play until they lock it down. And so I'm still going to keep playing. For example, what can you do in Italy? How am I looking at that? Like, okay, you tried the convoy, it didn't work. Maybe you do something else. Maybe you tap Turin, Tuscany. I don't know. You try something.
In the East, Corey, doing a good enough job on guesses? I mean, it's a lot of supports in there. Do you think Russ could be stronger in the South?
I mean, I agree with Doug. I think it's just a guessing game to some extent for what little flexibility there is left.
Yeah.
You're just going to get lucky or you're not.
Yep. All right, let's see if there's any luck involved in the South. Nope, nothing involved in the South. Holds Berlin. Actually, everything. Is there any movement anywhere? I don't see any.
No successful movement.
Yeah.
Nope. Now he's got his 16. The question is, does he want to try for 17? He can get 17 right now.
And so builds army over, and reveal on here is they still play. All right, so the game to get to 17 is on.
Yeah, I mean, Livonia got popped. Okay, they're going to take St. Petersburg back. Big whoop, right? That's not the end of the world, because you can also just go to Norway and retreat to Finland and put a fleet in Norway. Okay, annoying, but I can sacrifice the units to go take it back. The South didn't move, but it looks like he's going to play to try and get himself Munich. So
good for him.
Good for
I'm
them.
glad he's fighting for it. Good job.
Yeah, you maximize the score. Nope.
Huh?
Oh.
It wasn't worth it.
He very well could have been tired. They could have been like, nah, we're just going to play, to quote Brandon, dipsy doodle over here between Livonia, Prussia, and stuff. And it's not worth it. So,
and a 16, 16 centers, 160 is going to be going to be hard to beat. So any result in game 2, this is likely a guaranteed spot. So I just cursed him right there by saying that. So
I don't know. With only 8 games, a score of 160 is mammoth.
Oh yeah.
That might be enough in and of itself. You can only have one board top per game.
And he's really done it in this game, at least compared to the only other board we have as a result, board 1. I mean, he's done a great job.
Yeah, really, really well done. Nice job.
All right. Any other lasting thoughts other than obviously his well played game? Any disappointment from the stab? I know we saw some comments in there. Was that stab enough to give Russ the line, or was Russ just going to roll through no matter what happened?
I'd have to go back and look at the map and think through the numbers. The only critique that I would really make is I think he was a little vulnerable a couple of times to Germany fighting him or continuing to fight him. That's not optimal after you've made a stab. And then going and running in and grabbing Marseille instead of Tunis. Marseille's not going anywhere. If you have Tunis, you can generally get Marseille. So I really kind of would have rather seen him take Tunis at that point. And then he's fighting at the end over Munich for 18 instead of 17. So that kind of cost him that shot.
Yeah, really great play from Russ. I agree with Doug's comments. I would have liked to see the play for Tunis more so than Marseille, but he did very well. It's hard to fault him given the result that he got.
Yeah, and I think this stab right here is a really good one. He was ultimately going to get where he got. I think the mistake was Sergei continuing to fight Hunter instead of being like, oh crap, we've got a real problem here. And I think ultimately it hurt Sergei's score, because Russ got so big. He would have been better served here, go do your thing, Hunter, and maybe Hunter gets some centers in the med, but then you're not in a position where the solo opportunity comes in. So Russ did a great job to open himself up for opportunity. And I think Sergei took it a little longer than he ought to have given the gravity of the situation.
Excellent. Well, nice game, enjoyable game. We watched. We had some nice background information from Brian Pravel, who I think is going to jump back on. There he is. To anything that we missed during the analysis that you heard.
No, I think you covered it really well. I for one was really happy to see like for this quality of play. A lot of times you get a lot of the balance of power that we saw in that first game, which is a lot of fun. I was really happy though we had a diversity of play in both of these games. We had a strong alliance, a strong power break away and force the opposite theater to try and stop a solo, and Russ went for it. And that was exciting to watch. So two very different styles of gameplay, both really exciting and fun to watch.
A little backside. We don't have the interview because we're running out of time because the next round is about to start. But there was the deal that was made. So we're good. All right. So Doug and Corey, thank you so much for your analysis today. I'm not sure if we'll see either of you on in any of the later rounds. But we'll get that schedule out. And tonight, so folks who haven't had enough already, thanks for sticking with us this afternoon. The evening round goes on at 10 p.m. Eastern time. Is that right, Brian?
Yes, that is correct.
Excellent. So we'll have a new cast of characters, the founders of the DBN, and shout out to Eber for all the different variations of DBNI Invitational, and in the comments that was fantastic. But the DBN Network Invitational will go back at 9 o'clock tonight with some of your favorites, and we look forward to seeing you then. So thanks and take care. We'll sign off like Siobhan does, but be safe and stab well.
Stay safe and stab well, everyone.
Good
night.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, everybody.